Get started with our regularly scheduled meeting. I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. If I can ask you to all please rise for the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Tonight's invocation will be given by Pastor Betty Massey with Fairhope Christian Church.
May we pray. Gracious God, we thank you for bringing us together today. We ask for your guidance over this meeting and over the decisions that will be made. Grant this council wisdom, compassion, and understanding as they work for the good of this community. Help each of us present today listen with open hearts, speak with respect, and act with integrity. We ask you to bless your blessings on this council, the work that's accomplished today, and our city. In the precious name of Jesus we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Council, as mentioned in the work session, items 12 and 13 have been removed from the agenda. I'll move into agenda item number 1, which is to approve the minutes of the April 14th regular City Council meeting and the work session also held on the same day. Does anybody have any additions, deletions, changes to those minutes?
I make a motion to approve as submitted.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes as submitted. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say nay. All right, minutes are approved. Thank you, Council. Mary, your report, please.
Thank you. Today, I would like to recognize Lillian Lloyd. Lillian, you want to come up? So Lillian is the winner of our art contest for the anti-litter campaign that we do every year. She's a student at Fairhope Elementary School East. So she did this beautiful artwork. I want everybody to see it. It says, "Keep your city clean and green." Isn't that great? So I'm going to present this to her, but I want to tell you a little bit about the anti-litter campaign because this is something we've been doing for about 20 years here in Fairhope. We go every year and we meet with 5th grade students and talk to them about not littering, keeping our community tidy, what happens to that litter when you throw it down on the ground, where it ends up, which is of course in Mobile Bay. So we want to make sure we're good stewards of our environment and protect Mobile Bay at all costs. And so everybody gets a t-shirt, everybody has to sign a pledge. We might fib a little bit and tell them that we keep those pledges on file until they turn 16 and blow trash out of the back of their truck and they get stopped by the police department. Then we remind them they signed those pledges. So, but it's really fun to go, and we go to every K-6 school here in Fairhope and visit with those students. But they all have Lillian's design on their t-shirts, so they will be wearing those around school and around the community, and it's just a great way for us to educate people about the importance of keeping our community tidy. So Lillian, thank you so much. We love your design, and it looked great on the t-shirts.
Thank you, Lily. Great job, baby girl. Great job.
Thank you. So, yeah, that's always so much fun. So the other thing I want to do tonight, we actually recognized the dispatchers a couple weeks ago, and this week we are celebrating National Corrections Officer Week. Again, the folks behind the scenes who take care of something very important for us and don't always get to, sing their praises and tell them how much we appreciate them, but they're here tonight. And y'all want to come up?
All right.
So the proclamation reads, National Correction Officer Week, whereas the safety and well-being of every Fairhope resident or visitor is the utmost importance, and the correctional officers who work in our correctional facility dedicate themselves to this critical task each and every day. Whereas in an environment that may become intimidating, aggressive, and even hostile, correction officers are skilled professionals that are trained to maintain composure while preserving safety and property and restraining persons that may be dangerous to themselves or others. Whereas these honorable men and women are hardworking and committed public servants, and without their expertise and service, Fairhope's correctional facility would be unable to operate as successfully and efficiently as they do today. Whereas during this week, the City of Fairhope recognizes every correctional officer that serves in Fairhope. We thank them for their essential role they play in helping to protect the people of Fairhope and our community. Now, therefore, I, Sherry Sullivan, Mayor of Fairhope, do hereby proclaim May 4th through the 10th as Correction Officers Week in the City of Fairhope. Thank you, gentlemen, for what you do. Thank you for your service.
Thank y'all.
You say anything? No? Okay, good, thank you. Yeah, sure, I'll give you the mic. The other thing I would like to do is bring up John Woods. He is here. He would like to present something to each of the council members.
Good evening.
Evening, Mr. Woods.
It's my distinct honor and privilege to have worked with Mayor Jim Nix this past year on an autobiography of his life, and especially his 28 years as mayor of Fairhope. He wasn't able to come here tonight, but he's asked me to present a signed edition of the book, Building Dreams, The Legacy of Fairhope's Visionary Mayor, to each of you. He signed him. And he wanted me to add that he is proud of the way you are guiding the city and keeping, as they say, Fairhope remaining Fairhope. So I've got a book for each of you, and just thank you for the great job you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Yeah, Mayor Nix is the one who actually hired me at the city some 25 years ago, so the book's really well done. It kind of lines out all the things that we love about the city, the fountain and the pier, and how his vision was for that, the landscape and everything, so it's really great, so appreciate him doing that. Also want to remind everybody that there's a couple things going on this week. We did it in our update, but one of the things is the ESRT, Grease, the Theater on the Bluff is happening this week. There will be some traffic interruptions there if you go down to the Bluff area, the pier area, Wednesday through Saturday, so be mindful of that. And of course, we have First Friday Art Walk. Weather's been beautiful, so I'm sure there'll be a lot of people out and about. So thank you, council.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, next item is public participation. This would be for agenda items only. If you would like to address the council on agenda items 5 through 20, if you come to the podium and state your name and address for the record, you'll be given 3 minutes. If you have something that is not on tonight's agenda, you will be given an opportunity at the conclusion of tonight's meeting.
Hello there. My name is Donald DeGutz. My home is 110 Blakeney Avenue at Fairhope. Regarding item 7, the lease arrangement for the K1 Center, the brick building. Just a question I asked the mayor during the recess here, during the break, about the availability of the state and federal grants, $3.5 million in total that we're so dependent on before signing a lease with the county. And she told me the money's in the bank. So assuming that it's one of our banks, then I'm very pleased to know. Another item about that is that space, that parcel, a single parcel owned by the city in the CBD is really a rare possession, and it's 8.2 acres according to the Baldwin map. And this K-1 center that's going to be leased out with the approval of tonight's ordinance, 18,000 square feet, is about less than half an acre. So my question would be, what can we do with the 7 and change acres of that single parcel to develop it? In particularly, I'm concerned or interested in having parking structure or parking available so that we can finally get the hardware store turned into a hotel and give them that parking. That is the only thing holding it up, right? They're told they have to have parking. So this is something, Council President, you had mentioned during the December meeting, that at some point, some previous offer for building a structure there by someone might be the answer. I would like to see something done in that space as soon as possible so we can get that hardware store taken down and get something really nice put up there. Thank you.
So, Mr. DeGutz, I will address a part of that lease, that land, as you all know. That includes the community park land there as well, so that's occupied by the park. It also includes the land that is currently leased to Fairhope Educational Enrichment Foundation. So there are already some of that the uses, and I think the council is well aware of my desire to have seen some of that land at least turn into a parking lot. We continue those discussions, whether that be a parking lot or a parking structure, or any manner of things, but we still are in ongoing discussions.
Okay,
with
good,
that.
good. Well,
Yes, sir.
I'm pleased to hear that, so I do hope that'll turn
And I
out.
also think if you look at if you think that it's $1 a year is cheap for that, if you look at that, that's a 15-year lease and a $3.5 million grant. If you monetize that over 15 years, it would be quite we wouldn't have got that grant without the Economic Development Alliance, which applied for it for the express purpose of building the small business incubator. So it probably comes out to, a couple of thousands of dollars in rent, had we charged rent and used that to capitalize that building.
And I do have one other question. I know it's only $1 to token amount of rent. Is there an expense that the city will incur as a result of this lease agreement?
There could be some repairs.
But besides that,
But they share in those expenses as well, so
They
it's
do.
in their best interest to keep it in working order. They pay utilities as well.
okay, so the renovation and all that is not borne by us?
No, sir. There may be a small matching portion of that paid, borne by us.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else on agenda items 5 through 20? Seeing no one, I will close public participation for agenda items and remind everyone that you will have an opportunity to speak at the conclusion of tonight's meeting. Council comments. Councilman Martin.
Well, there's a couple of things I wanted to give put some light on, and that's our volunteer fire department. They're doing some things lately here to advance their educational. They went to or are going to a big convention so they can get educated, which we hadn't done in a long time, and I was proud to see that they're doing that, and I think that's a good thing for those guys to continue to get CEUs. They also did the burning building, where they practice on putting the fire out that I saw. So they're doing a lot of good things that a lot of people are unaware of. I just want to put some light on them and tell them that they're working hard, they're volunteers, and they're still doing all the extra stuff as if they were paid employees, which I'm very proud of because it keeps us safe and it keeps them trained to a level of standard that I really appreciate, and I'm sure you appreciate too if your house is on fire. So thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Conyers?
Yeah, I'll just say, I know there are a lot of people here tonight to speak about the library and the public participation at the end of the council meeting, and there's a lot of good people on both sides of this ongoing issue, and I would just ask that when you're getting up to speak, just be polite and courteous to one another, and just know that not everybody's going to have the same point of view, and let everyone be heard without talking over them or shouting down at them, and just be respectful. That's all.
Councilman Robinson?
Sure. I guess I'll go ahead and address a little bit of what I believe may be coming at the end of the meeting. And part of this is spurred by the fact, some of the emails that we've been getting while we've been sitting in here. And so it piggybacks on what Jimmy said about there being opinions, obviously, on both sides that I think, when you get down to it, may be a little more similar than you think. The emails that I'm talking about have been asking us to support the idea of keeping sexually explicit material out of the teen or minor section of the library. And so, I'd like to see a show of hands. Who in here is here tonight in support of removing or eliminating sexually explicit material from the teen or minor section of the library? Okay. All right. Is there anybody in here tonight who is here in support of keeping sexually explicit material in the teen section of our library?
Yeah, once again.
Or okay, let me rephrase that. Is there anyone in here in favor of us having sexually explicit material in our teen section of the library?
It has value.
That's my point, guys, is I don't think anybody wants sexually explicit material in the teen section or the minor section of our library. And so my point is that the issue itself is not one that we disagree on. Obviously, what we disagree on, or what there seems to be a disagreement on or a misunderstanding of, is what that definition of sexually explicit is. And so it's not my definition to give you guys. It's not this council's definition to give you guys. The definition of what qualifies as sexually explicit has got to come from the state. And whatever that definition is, I would expect, and I believe the council would expect, the library to follow the state's definition. And that doesn't mean we don't support the library. I love my wife, but I expect her to follow the law. And so I think if we just look at it from the perspective more of what we are agreeing on as opposed to what we're disagreeing on, I think that it'll make this whole situation a little more, hopefully a little more civil. And then I hope we can get through this in that regard, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
Councilman Boone?
Change the subject here. We're having the play on the bluff is tomorrow night, isn't it? For all those that have never seen this, you will be exceptionally surprised at the amount of talent this city offers in the plays that they put on. It's just wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. I can't say enough about it and looking forward to it. A shout out for it. Thank you very much.
I don't have any comments at this time. I may reserve the right to speak again at the conclusion of the meeting. So I have an opinion like everybody else, and it's what it is. It's just an opinion. So anyway, with that, I'll close council comments, and I'll move on to item number 5, which is a public hearing of an ordinance amending zoning ordinance number 1253, public hearing to consider the request of the applicant, SC Civil, on behalf of the owners, Robert and Renee Taylor, and FST Blue Island Owners Association, to amend the plan unit development known as Hermitage Court. The property is approximately .36 acres and is located at 620 Hermitage Court. Can I get somebody to introduce the ordinance, please?
I'll introduce the ordinance, Council
Okay,
President.
thank you, sir.
Thank you, Council. Sorry to hear that the crowd's not for my zoning change here. Thought people were finally interested.
Vanity, sir, vanity.
You get shot down every time I come up here first. So this is pretty much one of the easiest zoning changes you'll see. And really, sometimes our zoning district map says it all. This is essentially a common property line movement that otherwise, if it wasn't within a PUD, would be approved administratively, a replat recorded, and it would be done, signed months ago. But because this is in a PUD, it has to go through Planning Commission, public hearing, and processes. So what I'm going to show you here, the blue is the Hermitage Court PUD. The outer boundaries of that is governed by the zoning map, and someone wanted to purchase a piece of the property to the north that is zoned R1, and that's exactly what it's doing. So the zoning map on the left is what our zoning map is today. If this is approved, the zoning map on the right is what will be approved. There's no new lots being created. There's no new houses being built. This increases the size of someone's backyard. The aerials, as you see, that's kind of what it is. The parcel line, the lot lines would move. There's the final outcome. I'm really not even, we're maintaining all the easements and agreements that were part of that PUD, as well as any historic easements that were tied to those properties. We did have to have the signatures of everyone within that PUD. There was a little bit of a unique flavor here. In addition to our zoning changes, the one property was Fairhope single tax, one was not. So there was a closing and there's a replat within that to facilitate that. So we do have a condition of approval here. The bound copies we needed were supplied, so you do see one strike through since the staff report went out. But we do recommend approval. It unanimously came from the Planning Commission with approval to the council. We do have one recommendation for a recording a replat with the Baldwin County Probate. That is going to be ready almost immediately. And one thing, and I think, City Clerk, you got an email today, after this, to make after the final reading, we have to advertise to make it official. So until we get that replat, I don't want to advertise. We will coordinate with you to let you know if this is approved. So council, if there's any questions for me, I can certainly answer those. And Aaron with SE Civil is representing the client if you have any questions of them.
I have one quick question, Hunter, and I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but let's just be very clear. It's enlarging Lot 7. It does not allow for any further residences to be built. No apartment buildings on the back side of the property or mother-in-law suites or any of that.
Lot 7 is still, the underlying zoning of that is for a low-density, single-family home. So that's all it is. I might use this platform to just tell you there's probably some zoning amendments being proposed coming. This is one of those things as a PUD. We probably don't need to go through this whole process. So there's going to probably be some restrictions placed on future PUDs. This is a good example. This is a very inefficient use of the city's time, the applicants, everyone involved. So we'll see those in the next few months, and we'll kind of maybe accommodate some of these things to make it a little more efficient.
Let me ask a simple question, and I'm ignorant on this. I just want to show all of my ignorance. So when if I were to enlarge that area, could I chop it up again and again?
I mean, theoretically, if you get the zoning and you get the subdivision right, but there's a lot of public processes through that, we probably wouldn't recommend it. This area is, there's spot zoning we don't want to do. And I'm going to go back to the map right here. While that is a PUD, the lot sizes are still the same as those around this surrounding vicinity. So it does meet the size requirement of all the neighbors. We would never support coming in and chopping that up into more lots. Okay. What we're dealing with there, the blue color is a map amendment, and that blue color has its own custom zoning essentially. And by this amendment, we're changing that outer boundary. That's why it has to go through these processes through state statute. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes,
Right,
sir.
Council. We're going to let this lie over for final consideration at the next meeting.
You need to hold the public hearing.
Pardon?
Public hearing.
Open the hearing.
Oh, sorry, yeah, public hearing. I mean, to open up a public hearing on this. Anybody would like to speak to item 5? My bad. Okay, I'll close the public hearing. We'll move on to item 6 now. Sorry about that. Item 6 is final adoption of an ordinance to grant a franchise agreement to Coca-Cola Bottling Company, United Central, to operate beverage vending and concession machines specified in bid number 25-15, beverage vending and concession annual contract for 3 years, which was introduced at the City Council meeting on April the 14th, 2025. The mayor's on hand to answer any questions. I'll entertain a motion for final adoption.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. Clerk, will you call the question, please?
Council President,
Aye.
place 2,
Aye.
place 3,
Aye.
place 4,
Aye.
place 5.
Aye.
All right, the motion carries. Thank you, council. Item 7 is an ordinance to declare that certain real property of the city of Fairhope, part of the K1 Center located at 106 South Church Street for Baldwin County Community and Economic Development Foundation, is outlined in Exhibit A attached to this lease, is not needed for public or municipal purposes in response to an offer to lease the property for a 15-year term for a minimum yearly rent of $1 payable as specified in the lease. Can I get somebody to introduce the ordinance, please?
I'll introduce it.
Okay. We talked about this after Mr. DeGutt's comments. Some probably covered most of the questions. Mayor, did you want to expand on that any?
I think the only thing that I would want to add, I know a lot of times we get some criticism for the $1 a year and not needing it for city purposes. There is, I think, almost 3,000 square feet that is available to the city to be able to use in this building. The other thing is, Baldwin County EDA has secured a grant through Innovate Alabama for a little over $2 million, where they will be doing the FF&E on the inside. So there are some improvements being done to this building that the city will ultimately own. So just want to make that known as well. They are making a significant investment also in us preserving this building.
Yeah, that was my reason for kind of pointing out, if you monetize that over 15 years, that's quite a bit of rent that would be collected there, if you looked at it in that way. Does anybody have any questions for the mayor on that? Mark, is there any hurry to adopt that? Any hurry that you're aware of? Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and let this lay over for final adoption to the next meeting. Item number 8 is a resolution that Lisa Hanks, city clerk, is hereby appointed to perform all of the duties otherwise required to be performed by the mayor per the Code of Alabama, 1975, with respect to the municipal election to be held in the city of Fairhope on August 26, 2025, and if necessary, a runoff election on September 23rd, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right. Hearing none, all those in favor of the resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. All right, the ayes have it. Thank you, council. Item number 9 is a resolution to appoint election officials for Election Day on August 26, 2025, and runoff Election Day on September 23rd, 2025, and if necessary, if that's necessary, and establish compensation for the election officials. This is, should be item 9, and you'll see a full list, everything from the chief inspector down to the machine clerks and machine attendants.
So moved with deletions and additions.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Yeah, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right. Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say nay. All right, motion carries. Thank you, council. Item number 10 is a resolution that Mayor Sullivan is hereby authorized to execute a contract with Mott McDonald, Alabama, for professional engineering design services for our Alabama Transportation Rehabilitation and Improvement 2 program, known as the A-Trip 2, intersection improvements as US 98 and Volanta Avenue, with a not-to-exceed amount of $203,988, and authorize the treasurer to transfer $189,678.73 from general fund to capital projects fund.
So moved.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. I want to remind everyone how much of that is grant money. Mayor, do you have that handy?
It's right well, this part is not grant money, but we do have grant money to do the project at $2.2 million.
Okay, what was the, it said that previously we had
We do have some funding
$2
from
million.
we do have some funding from the reserve that built there at the corner of Volanta and 98 that they will be contributing to the match of this project, but the grant itself is $2.2 million.
Oh, I get it, yeah. It won't apply to this portion of it. This is our
Correct.
portion.
That's our portion.
Right. But it's in conjunction with the $2 million grant
That's
that will
correct.
provide for construction, right? Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries. Thank you, council. Item 11 is a resolution to award the bid to Pike Engineering for joint use attachment inventory for the City of Fairhope Electric Department with a not-to-exceed bid proposal of $135,050. Mr. Patterson informed us at the work session, this was removed some months back and put out for rebid. It came in a little bit lower, although, it was a pretty complex award. There's a lot of GIS services, and it accounts for all approximately 2,600 poles in the city of Fairhope. So,
So moved.
okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to award the bid. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay.
I'm gonna say one thing, Council President.
Yes, sir.
I really appreciate the directors of our organization as far as departments not accepting these one bids and actually lowering the price by going back and getting multiple bids. It really is, as you see, it lowers the price every time. So I have to say thank you for that. Yeah.
Okay. Items 12 and 13 were removed at the beginning of the meeting, so I'll move to item 14 on the agenda, which is a resolution that the City Council approves contract amendment number 1 for RFQ PS 24-10 with Kimley Horn and Associates for professional engineering services for lead service lines inventory and compliance, Phase 1, with a not-to-exceed amount of $50,000, and authorizes the mayor to execute the contract amendment. The new contract total has a not-to-exceed amount of $127,700. Darrell and Joe both briefed us in the work session, so I'll entertain a motion to amend.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any questions for the Water Department? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say nay. All right, the motion carries. Thank you, council. Item 15 is a resolution that Mayor Sullivan is hereby authorized to execute a contract with Duke's Root Control, Inc. for inflow and infiltration identification study with a not-to-exceed amount of $49,500. Darrell also briefed us in the work session on this item.
So move.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Councilman Martin, I know previously you'd had some questions. You're satisfied now?
Yeah, I think
That's
yes, they answered the questions. They asked the questions, more importantly, that we needed to know, and so I'm comfortable with it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries. Item 16 is a resolution. The City Council approves the selection by Mayor Sullivan for professional engineering services for an 8-inch water main replacement under Rock Creek. The project to Krebs Engineering, and hereby authorizes Mayor Sullivan to execute a contract with a not-to-exceed amount of $30,000. As discussed in the work session previously tonight, I think it includes about an additional 900 linear feet of pipe that's outlived its life expectancy. And
So moved.
Second.
we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries. Thank you, council. Item 17 is a resolution. The City Council hereby authorizes Mayor Sullivan to execute a contract for professional services for closing costs and title insurance on the Bible Way Holiness and land purchase with Kopesky and Britt with a not-to-exceed cost of $5,000. That's, may say 10, that was edited earlier to be 5,000. And further authorizes the mayor to execute the purchase agreement for the property and easement described herein with a purchase price of $18,000 that has a credit for $1,000 already submitted.
So move with the amended 5,000.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say nay. All right, motion carries. Item 18 is a resolution. The City Council hereby amends Resolution Number 5298-24 to add the following to Item 2, Reservations, Section 5B. Groups that have had annual events and have consistently rented the auditorium for at least 10 consecutive years are granted the privilege to reserve the venue with the same end time as in previous years. We clarified this with Paige in the work session. This was intended to not ensnare Mardi Gras groups, some certain Christmas groups that have rented the facility for decades. They wouldn't be made to shut down at 12 a.m. So I entertain a motion to amend the resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Item 19 is a resolution. The City Council hereby repeals and replaces Resolution Number 1409-07, setting forth the rules and regulations for the operation of the James B. Nick Center Complex located at 1 Bayou Drive in Fairhope. Just make a note, Section O, the insurance language was changed, and you should have record of that in the resolution that was given to you. So I think that Paige had gone through this a couple of times in our work sessions in the past, and briefly touched on it in today's work session. So if you have any questions, please ask her. If not, I'll entertain a motion to repeal and replace the resolution.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those that oppose have the same right. Okay, motion carries. Thank you, council. Item number 20 is an application for beer and wine on off-premises licensed by John S. MacArthur of Fairhope Hemp LLC, doing business as Johnny Max at 505 Fairhope Avenue. Chief said there was no reason to deny this license, so I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So move.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to approve the application. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. All right. Item 21, public participation. If you would like to bring anything else forward before the council, you come to the podium. Ran up there.
Not controversial.
I gotta go.
Give your name and address, you'll be given
I'm finna jump
3
in and
minutes.
Get out.
Name again, Donald DeGutz, 110 Blakeney Avenue. Just wanted to address an item brought up during the work session by our gas superintendent, Wes, whose name I don't know, to try to market natural gas in new developments and all. I just want the city council to recognize, as well as any other municipal government leadership, their role in protecting the health, welfare, safety of the community. There is a study that came out in the end of December of 2022 about natural gas in the home. Just to read into the record, as a conclusion, 12.7% of current childhood asthma nationwide is attributed to gas stove use, which is similar to the childhood asthma burden attributed to secondhand smoke exposure. So before we go marketing and pushing natural gas as a product, maybe as a profit center, let's keep in mind that there is some science now, some research done, and if we're having new developments and new families and children to populate our city, let's not burden them with childhood asthma. Thank you.
So, Mr. DeGoots, could you tell me the
DeGutz.
article,
Thank you.
the medical article that you referred that to, and if it's a retrospective study, and how many were involved in the study, and how many years they did that study, please?
Okay, I'm not going to be able to give you that.
Oh, okay, thank you.
All right, so the item was brought up during the work session. I wasn't prepared for any more
Oh,
than
okay.
to recall that this came out recently. There are certain states and communities that are going to address it. I'm just thinking that perhaps before we start marketing something that could be a burden to children and families, that we would consider that over the other, I guess, monetary benefit. So thank you.
Good evening, City Council members. My name is Zeke Dernlin. I'm a senior at Odero Morris Classical Academy, which is actually just down the street here in town. Thank you guys for everything you do for this city. I really appreciate it. How can we, the people of Fairhope, best equip you, the city council members, to do your job well? This is a question I've been thinking about a lot recently. To answer this question, I did ask myself another question. What is the government's job? Or rather, what tasks are the government's role to carry out? The context for why I was asking myself these questions is because of the sewer infrastructure crisis that we've had in Fairhope the last several years. There have been articles upon articles written about the infrastructure's insufficiency. Whenever there's a bad rain in the Fairhope area, the sewage infrastructure fails, and sewage water leaks and is drained into the bay. Although I know recently that there have been efforts to begin renovations on the sewer infrastructure, surely this issue should have been taken care of more recently. After all, the bay is both Fairhope's greatest natural resource and the main attraction. The great economist Adam Smith said that one of the main functions of the government is to maintain the things necessary for a society that an individual would never have the incentive to do. This definition provides both an answer to my earlier question and a category for which we can put the issue of the sewage infrastructure into. Naturally, I'm left wondering, if the maintenance of sewage infrastructure is a necessary responsibility of the government, then what other government projects have been taking up the government's attention that are not necessary? I believe that the large amount of resources and money spent on the flowers that decorate the downtown is a good example of this. Now, just to clarify, I think that the flowers are wonderful and do a great job of enhancing the beauty of the town. I'm only suggesting that we explore a different way to keep our city decorated with the flowers besides using a large amount of government spending. I would suggest that the city explores something similar to what the city of Memphis does to decorate its city. The Memphis city government actually granted a group called the Overton Conservatory authority to manage over 180 acres of public land. All the funds that go toward the preservation of decorations like flowers in that public property is raised by the conservatory. This saves the Memphis government a lot of time and resources that would otherwise be spent completing that project. I believe that Fairhope could adopt a similar method. I've talked with a lot of people about this idea, and many of them said that if something like this were to be set up, that they would volunteer their time towards the project. I believe that a rotating of only 40 volunteers would be sufficient to handle the growing, planting, care, and of course the fundraising for the flowers in the downtown. If this was accomplished, it would be very beneficial to the government of Fairhope. It would provide it with more time, energy, and resource to dedicate to the city's sewage infrastructure and other important problems. What other projects could be performed similar to this which could save money and to benefit our city? In the end, this is really not just about the flowers or the sewage infrastructure, but an effort to prompt you all to examine what things the city government spends or does not spend its money on, and determine what the city government should be spending or not spending money on, as you seek to lead our town the best way that you can. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Suzette Walker, and I live at 710 South Mobile Street. I'm here tonight as the president of the board of the HOA at Magnolia Beach Townhomes. After the heavy rains in early April, we awoke to 10 very large logs that are uniformly cut within the portion of Tantonville Gully that runs between our two pieces of property. There are also logs on the east side of Mobile Street. These logs are 6 to 12 feet long, and their diameter is 2.5 to 3 foot. I have pictures for you at the end. According to Alabama law and the city of Fairhope, it is illegal to dump logs, debris, brush, etc. into any gully as well as Mobile Bay. As a concerned citizen, I reached out to the Department of Public Works with pictures asking that these logs be removed. The answer I received frankly shocked me. I was told that this was on private property and that the city would not remove them. I would like to state clearly and precisely that Magnolia Beach Townhomes do not own 1 inch of Tatumville Gully. This has been well researched and documented and confirmed by multiple sources, including 2 law firms, Daniels and Upton, and Benton and Lipscomb, 2 engineering firms, Davis Construction and Sawgrass, as well as city officials, among many others. On the city website, it states that all gullies and watershed areas are maintained by the city. It doesn't say except for Tatumville Gully. The website also has multiple documents regarding Tatumville Gully, including an engineering report stating that the extent of erosion and how to slow this down. This gully drains almost 1,000 acres of the city's water and rainfall, helping to decrease flooding. This is 1/3 of our city. During the next heavy rains, which are coming, the rains will wash these logs into the bay, which is illegal also under Alabama law. I'm asking that the city do the right thing and remove these logs before they enter the bay, where they can cause a lot of damage to vessels, cause bodily harm, and will further upset the ecosystem of our bay. as well as invest in whoever recently dumped these logs into the gully. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. I saw the pictures. I've seen them. I'm shocked that somebody cut those logs. I mean, there's a chainsaw, and it doesn't seem like it would be very hard to figure out who put the
Right.
logs in there. Can
It's
we
clearly
investigate
upstream.
that?
It's clearly upstream from us. We did try to walk the area a short distance, and it wasn't in the area that we got to, but somebody's clearing land up there.
Haven't found anything visible as of yet. I mean, we've looked at it also, and we haven't found anything visible.
Cannot find where somebody would dump logs, and no chance that some tree removal company decided that was a convenient place to dump them,
Oh,
which
very likely that.
Yeah.
Could be, but
Somebody.
we can't prove that.
it is quite shocking. And
It's-
I was told it was state lands there, though, which brings in some liability questions were we to go in and mess something up. Then you kind of take ownership, then you're liable for anything that happens there. So there is some hesitation to try to fix that, but I would really like to find the people that did that and hold them accountable to rectify the situation.
If it's not done soon, it's going to be too late.
And I have reached out to the state to see.
Yeah.
Have you reached out to the state to see if there's something they can assist us with to clean that mess up? Because if they do go out in that bay, you know, if the logs don't go through the hull of a boat, they're gonna take the lower unit off the motors and
Yeah.
do.
It's appalling to me. Thank you for your time.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
I see what the problem is. You have to go through the backyard of people to get to it. I think that's the problem, too. That's what I'm saying. It's hard to get to, yeah. That's interesting.
Good evening. I'm Donna Riley Line. I live at 19270 Greeno Road, Lot 60, and I'm going to kick off the library discussion. Okay? And Mr. Robinson, you better close your ears, because they're closed anyway. But I'm here to speak in support of the library, period. But as I'm hearing the talking, I trust the professional librarians, and I trust the board to make good decisions for this community. I also recall that, and I do not accept any type of I'm not for any type of books, I'm for all books. And this issue of things being inappropriate for kids is not a new one. I remember more than 50 years ago checking out a library book called Christie. I think some of you may have read it. It's about a woman who comes to a missionary in Appalachia, and the book talks frankly about a rape, the child resulting, and about men trying to attack women. So that was a 12-year-old. Guess what? And a Christian book. Isn't that a surprise? But at any rate, I think this library staff and board knows the community standards better than anybody in Alabama, and I trust them. Thank you.
I'm going to piggyback off what she said. I'm Mary Kate Dean. I've lived in Fairhope for 45-plus years. I live right now at Crystal Wells Court, 36532, Baldwin County native, born and bred and educated here in this county. I have my master's in English. I taught for 29-plus years at Daphne Middle School, and I am here to absolutely stand behind the library. These days, instead of going to the experts we know we keep going to amateurs and let them decide what's the best course for America. The professional librarians should be trusted. They know their jobs like you know your job. And the the American Library Association sets guidelines. They review these books. They're not pornography. Do they contain controversial subjects? Yes. Just as To Kill a Mockingbird does. But they are important literary books. And I ask you not to reshelve them so that the students who need them can't find them. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
My name is Wendy Pickering, 26577 Cotton Bayou Drive, Orange Beach, Alabama. The books we're talking about are definitely not To Kill a Mockingbird, so y'all know exactly what books we're talking about. We've been through that, we're not going through it again. Let me be perfectly clear, we are not calling for any books to be banned. We are not demanding censorship. We are simply demanding that sexually explicit books, material describing sexual acts, rapes, trafficking, and graphic language be moved out of the children's and teen sections and placed into the adult sections where they belong. Children deserve protection. That is not censorship, it is common sense. So let's talk about responsibility. The Fairhope City Council is one of the primary funders of the library. When you approve funding, you are funding all of the materials placed in the library, and that includes sexually explicit books that are now being placed in the hands of children. You cannot separate yourselves from the consequences of that funding. You are accountable legally and ethically for what your budget decisions enable. Each of you swore an oath under the Alabama Constitution to uphold the laws of the state and to protect the welfare of the citizens you serve, and that includes the welfare of our children. Under the Alabama Constitution and the United States Constitution, it is well established that parents have a fundamental right to protect their children from sexually inappropriate material. Allowing materials that describe graphic sexual activity in the children's or teen sections undermines parents' rights, endangers minors, and violates community trust. So let's be clear. If this council continues to knowingly fund a library that exposes children to sexually explicit content without taking corrective action, we intend to pursue all lawful remedies available, including filing formal claims against your surety bonds for breach of your oath and failure to protect the public interest. You have the power to act, and you have the responsibility to act. We are not asking for books to be burned or banned. We are asking them to be properly shelved. If you will not do even that, then you are choosing to prioritize politics over children, and that will not go unanswered. We have been called extremists. Wanting to protect children from sexually explicit material is not extremism. It's common sense, it's lawful, and it's what every responsible adult should be doing. We've been called intolerant. Tolerance does not require that we expose minors to sexually graphic content. True tolerance includes protecting the vulnerable and not abandoning them. We have been accused of forcing morality, yet every law reflects some moral standard. Protecting children from sexually explicit material is not forcing morality, it's fulfilling our basic duty as a society. This is not about censorship, it's about stewardship. You have taken an oath to uphold the law and protect the welfare of this community. We are not asking, we are insisting that the law be upheld and that taxpayer funding not be weaponized against the children it is meant to serve and protect. These are the letters that I have that will be citing what the claim will be. I did also pull some of the statements of economic interest from each of you. Going back 4 years, that prompted me to file some FOIA requests in Alabama, Florida, California, Mississippi, and Texas, and Arizona. And so some of you will have added things to the claims, just depending on what I found in those situations. Would you like me to leave these here?
Sure.
You want me to set them right here?
You can hand them to the clerk.
Sorry, Mayor, one is for you also. Thank you. You're welcome.
Hello, my name is Dr. Caleb Whitehead. I live in Burlington Drive. I don't have a prepared speech. I've just been taking notes from tonight. This meeting got off to a really rocky start with some comments from the councilman. This is not a debate on the definitions of words. Our library was called the worst in the state. Our librarians were called sexual groomers. People who want to educate children on risks of sexual abuse are called groomers. We are under attack and to say that we need to be cordial and respect, and this is silly. Also, it is not up to the state, the definition of sexual abuse. The Supreme Court already gave us that answer back in the 70s. Some of you all are lawyers with the three-pronged Miller test. That's just factually incorrect. The primary victims of sexual abuse are children. Removing books is censorship. Placing them out of reach, placing them where children won't get them, is the definition of censorship. You don't have to get a black marker and mark out words you don't like to be censorship. Removing it from them places them in danger. They are the primary demographic who needs to see these books. This is not debatable. This is the fight. You are placing children at risk if you remove these books and you place them out of reach. Where are we to strike common ground on this topic? Where's the middle ground between sense and nonsense? Where's the middle ground between truth and lie? Our neighbor state, Florida, there is a bill that is dangerously close to passing, House Bill 1505, which will make it so that children with sexually transmitted diseases, which is increasing rampantly over in Florida, if you're not aware and you're not following those topics, will not be able to receive treatment without parental consent, up to 17 years old. This is pushed for by the same people, not the people in this room. These are good people who want what's best for their kids. They're trying to figure it out. But the people who are telling them come here, the people who are funding it, they're pushing these bills under the guise of parental rights. They are endangering children. Someone can come into my office, a child, and they have an STI, and I can't treat them without a parent there. This is not sense. This is pushed as common sense measures. This is insanity. You must fight this, you must fight this, you must fight this. Thank you.
Hello. My name's Savan Wilson, and I'm a retired library science professor at a university. I particularly appreciated something someone said earlier about how our librarians are trained for this. They're never trained for this. And you're not even ready for this every other month or so. So I want to thank you for your patience, and I want to thank you for your service, because we're here once again to defend the right to read. And to not show up, you have to show up for this, just like we have to show up for the right to speak and the freedom of speech. I could spend my 3 minutes going over collection development policies and book reconsideration policies and what our professional librarians in Fairhope have done trying to meet everything our state has required this year. And this is a new world, people. It's a new world for librarians. It's a new world for our society and what our children are having to deal with every day. Think about it when y'all were even in school. We didn't have half of the societal issues our children are having today. And we certainly didn't have the bullying and all sorts of things that go on in our schools. But I think we have to honor the procedures that professional librarians are doing and not allow political pressure or any other things that come up to sidestep that. We all know the definition that even our state has right now about obscenity. We're all on the same page with that. But we're on a different planet with how we get to that angle. And in my belief, and I've been in schools and I've been in public libraries, I've worked all my life in a library in some way. Reading is a basic freedom of our democracy. Parents and individuals have the right to decide what is best for themselves and their families, but no one has the right to decide for everyone else. And it's making sure that information is available for those that need it. When we start moving books around, Now, yeah, they could be moved to the adult section, but all of the reviews of those books, the books, why they were written, was for a certain audience in a certain way. Not one page, 3 sentences taken out of context. You have to read the whole book, and our librarians have done that. They have spent enormous amounts of time dealing with this one issue. We've spent an enormous amount of time dealing and thinking about this issue. And you have too, and that's a shame. We almost need a mediator. But the point is that when we start banning books because we're uncomfortable, or we aren't protecting anyone, we're closing minds. We're telling young people that questions aren't welcome, that some stories shouldn't be told, and that being different is dangerous and not a good thing to be. Our library is today doing exactly what it was built to do 125 years ago, serving children and families, supporting education, and fostering lifelong learning. Everyone in here is a lifelong learner, probably. And it's mostly our library, 125 years old, is something we're all very proud of. It's something we take people to see. It's something we pass by when we have visitors and say, that's our library. And when I first worked as a public librarian 1 million years ago in a small town, the one thing they were proudest of is the library because it was the center of their town, a very small town in the Mississippi Delta. I appreciate our city government. I know each of you and I know what you do. And we want a library that's a place for learning and curiosity and community pride. We don't want this dissension. We'd like for it to go away, or we'd at least like to agree that the policies and procedures that are professional policies and procedures enacted by professional people that are looking every way they can to make the road a little smoother for everybody. But we don't want it to be a battleground of political agendas. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dirk Anderson. I live at 27469 Elise Court in Daphne, Alabama. I'm an educator here in Fairhope. And Jeff and the rest of you, no one is talking about banning books or blacking out anything in books. We are simply asking that books be moved to the adult section because there is pornographic material in these books. It is not just 3 sentences long. Oftentimes it is page after page after page of filth. We are asking to protect our kids with common sense measures. We are asking not to ban books, not to black out anything. We are not talking about STDs or 17-year-olds in here. We are talking about moving books from a teen or a children's section into the adult section where adults can help their kids pick those books. And if kids don't have the ability to figure out how to pick a book, I'm sure those professional librarians can help them. Show them where those books are now kept. And they're free to check them out with their parents, under their parents' guidance. I moved my family from Minneapolis, Minnesota 6 years ago because it became insanity up there. You cannot raise a family in most blue cities across this nation. I came here for conservative values and common sense practices and godly people. And Jesus loves us all. But there are some things that are just common sense, and we look to the leadership of this city to help us in that matter. Thank you for your time.
Good
Good evening. My name is Maggie Davis. I live on 210 Perdido Avenue. I grew up in the public school system here. I grew up with the libraries here, the public and school libraries. I got my first library card in kindergarten with my mom. I would like to say that I completely trust the professional librarians of this city, and I practically lived in libraries when I was a child, and I don't believe I grew up traumatized or somehow sexually deviant in any way. And the diversity of books and material available greatly expanded my life experience as a young adult. And what is being proposed across the country is simply paving the way for more censorship and more erasure of the human experience. So I would like everyone to please consider that. Thank you.
I have to move this down because I'm short. Hi, my name is Anita Powell. I live in Daphne. I wasn't going to speak tonight because you want to hear from Fairhope citizens, obviously, and understandably. But the narrative that I heard today, that out-of-towners are pushing an agenda that doesn't align with Fairhope's values, made me change my mind. I have lived the entirety of my 48 years on the Eastern Shore, and 36 of those years were in Fairhope. I'm a proud product of our school system, Go Pirates, class of '95, and spent 3 hours a day after school at the Fairhope Public Library for 5 years. My small business holds the City of Fairhope business license, and we are regular participants in the Mobile Bay Makers Market, so I hope that gives me enough cred to speak. Once a Fairhoper, always a Fairhoper. I would like to thank the city leaders for your continuing support of our library. You clearly understand that our Fairhope community values literature, writing, art, and performance. We value knowledge and freedom. Thank you for your support of these values. Our library is something special. It took me in when I was an awkward young teen and gave me a place to do my homework, to read anything I wanted to read, and the ability to give back to my community by volunteering. I shelved books, I helped with the summer reading program for kids. These experiences gave me confidence and helped shape me into who I am today. My kids are almost teens, and we have the same rule that my parents had. They can read what they want. If anything bothers them or upsets them, they come and talk to me. I'm not afraid of tough conversations about reality, and I know my kids well enough to know that they can handle it. We understand that books are meant to challenge us, to give us new perspectives, and to help us understand people who are different from us, and maybe even to give us information that we need, that maybe we won't get somewhere else. If other folks want to parent their kids differently, that's fine. That's what freedom is all about, right? The books in question are shelved correctly, and if parents choose to shield their kids from them, they can certainly do that. It blows my mind that that's not common sense for some people. Again, thank you so much for supporting our library and our librarians. You are reflecting the values of our community. I support the Fairhope Public Library, and I'm grateful that all of you do too. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Samantha Pinkston. I live in the Willow subdivision in Fairhope. As a resident of Fairhope, I just want to echo some of the same messages you heard earlier from other supporters of the library. I want to express my strong support for the library and our librarians. I know that our library has attracted attention from people outside of our town, so I wanted to give my family's perspective. We are regular patrons who have only ever had positive experiences during our visits. My 6-year-old in particular is an avid reader who is enthralled with all of the books available to her there. We recognize that the library staff are trained experts who thoughtfully curate the library's collections appropriately and in a way that meets the diverse needs of our entire community. And as parents, we also do our due diligence as parents to monitor what she is consuming. I trust our librarians to make informed, responsible decisions, and I hope to see strong support for the Fairhope Library for years to come.
My name is Jennings Wright. I live at 114 Spring Drive here in Fairhope. I take my son to the library regularly, a couple times a week. I have a current outstanding balance of $1.20 in outstanding fines. To me, I know a lot of people are talking about the ideology tonight, but to me this comes down a little bit more to brass tacks. What is the role of the Alabama Library Public System? What is the role of the APLS? Is that role to micromanage every book in every library in the state? Or is it to create guidelines and approve processes that they then entrust those libraries to follow? To me, based on the history of how this event unfolded, the ALPS board is attempting to micromanage specific results rather than the processes that are in place for these libraries. So, I mean, if that's within their accordance and that's what we think that the APLS board should be doing, that's one thing. But if they are saying that the libraries are able to create their processes, create their reviews, create their appeals, and the library is following that process, at what point does the APLS stop intervening when they don't receive the results they like? At what point do we keep applying purity tests till we get to the one true Scotsman? At what point as we increase the restrictiveness again and again through micromanagement rather than letting boards and communities handle these issues at a community level, at what point are we left with nothing, with the least restrictive option? I just want to express my support for our local library, the board, and the council's support of the board itself. So, thank you very much.
My name is Nathaniel Spurgeon. I live at 10539 McNeil Davis Lane. I come before you not just as a resident of Fairhope, but as a father, a Marine veteran, and someone who cares deeply about the future of our children, mentally, morally, and spiritually. I come not as someone seeking to ban books, but as someone pleading for wisdom, protection, and balance for our children. I am a father of 8 with 1 grandson. I've raised them, protected them, and taught them what it means to think critically and live honorably. I know firsthand that our children, our teens especially, are under immense pressure in today's world. Pressure to grow up too fast, pressure to conform, pressure to question their values, their identity, and even whether life is worth living. And as a father who's held his child while they cried from confusion, trauma, or pain, I ask you to hear me, not as an activist, but as a parent who simply wants the library to be a place of learning, not a place of stumbling. This conversation is not a debate about censorship or banning ideas. It is about a conversation about responsibility to protect young minds while still encouraging curiosity, growth, and literacy. I'm here to ask, is it responsible to place books that can include graphic sexual content, incest, or glorified self-harm and detailed depictions of abuse in the hands of teens without context or guidance? Consider these facts. According to the CDC's 2023 Youth Risk Behavior Survey, 42% of high school students reported persistent feelings of sadness or hopelessness, and nearly 1 in 5 seriously considered suicide. The Journal of Adolescent, I'm not going to go into that, I don't have much time. When we ignore these facts and call concerned parents book banners, we are not defending freedom, we are abandoning common sense. I have a lot written here, but so I'm probably one of the only people here in this town who has ever paid a ransom for their spouse. My wife was kidnapped along with my mother-in-law, and no matter what I did, they would not accept my mother-in-law's ransom. So, all joking aside, it's very traumatic. And I had to hold my children during that time frame. He was only 1 at the time. It was very difficult for us to deal with. My teen daughter read some books in the library that she thought would be cool, but they included instances of that trauma, and it relayed those things back to her. What I'm asking for us is to think constructively on what we can do, if we can put the books in an area for guidance so that our children can be compelled to ask adults for help in navigating these important books, because it can bring up trauma that they never knew that they felt. And it's very important to me. I have a lot more here. I can email you my full content, but thank you for everything.
Another short lady. Council, Mayor, and everyone in attendance. My name is Kelly Wright. I'm a Fairhope resident. I live in the Fairwood neighborhood. I guess I just wanted to kind of respond to some of the comments that have been made tonight and make hopefully a few more additional points in this very big, very complex argument and issue that we're dealing with as not only a community, but also in our state and in our country, obviously. I take issue with the language that we have librarians or adults in children's lives that are placing controversial books into their hands. I think everyone in here with common sense knows what children carry around in their hands. Most of the time, it's not a library book. Most of the time, it is a device or perhaps an iPhone watch where they do have access to all kinds of material. Some parents are able to monitor that. Some parents maybe aren't able to or just don't know how. But I would like everyone to think about the process of having access to information is as important as it is to be able to talk about that information with trusted individuals, whether that be a teacher, a counselor, your parents, a family member, a peer. I think a lot of these conversations should be happening more often than the conversation about what's in the books themselves. The books themselves exist. They exist here in Fairhope. They exist in California. They exist in France. They exist everywhere. The reality is they exist because these things happen in our world. It's part of the human experience. But what we should all be thinking about is how can we have the hard conversations and be on the same page about, is this okay? As long as you are a child, you are under your parent or your guardian's stewardship, and those are the people that set the standards for those families. I hate to hear the thought that something was traumatizing, that somebody read something that was traumatizing in a book. But again, we should be fostering a community and a society where we have trusted individuals to help people through those experiences. If half of the money and the time and the effort was going into putting people in place that can do that kind of work, social workers, counselors, programs for unhoused children, I think we would be in a lot better place than we are right now. We can make ourselves blue in the face about the content of the books, but what about the content of the conversations we have in our community? Thank you.
Hello, my name is Taylor D'Amico. I live in Fairhope at the corner of 13 and Morphy. And I have a 13-year-old son, and I can't control what he watches on his phone. I try. They are exposed to so much that we just have no idea. I mean, I go through and I see his chats, but I don't see his YouTube history unless I deep dive, and that's hard to do as a working mom. And you have to go through a lot to see what they might have seen. To know that they can go to a library and have vetted for things that are, you know, okay, possibly going to keep somebody alive if they're a young kid and they feel marginalized and put on the side of things like they don't fit in. And they, you know, just, it happens. These kids don't feel like they belong, and all anybody wants is to feel like they belong in this world. And if there's not a book, if a book can help them not have a mental health crisis at a young age when they're not equipped to it, I think that's important. And I think it's really important that parents are there to be there for them, and no kid's going to go to their parent and ask for them to go to an adult section and get a book that might relate to them, especially when they're in their threatened in their teen years. I mean, they need to be able to have a resource that they can trust, and I believe our library does that. I support them. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jenny Douglas. I live at 850 Cherry Circle here in Fairhope, and I'm a retired teacher. I taught first and second grade for 20 plus years, and I support the Fairhope Public Library, and I thank you all for supporting the library and for the funding. Thank you.
First.
Brought my friends with me. Hello, my name is Dr. Kathleen Heath. I have had an office in Fairhope for about 30 years. I'm a children's therapist. My vita, I'll just give you a little bit so you will know that I have some expertise. I have a Doctor of Education and Counseling from Auburn, Masters of Arts and Clinical Psychology from Xavier of Cincinnati, and a Bachelor of Arts in Sociology from the University of Cincinnati. I have worked for probably, I want to say 35 years in Baldwin County. Whoa, did I do something? Okay. I am licensed as a professional counselor in the state of Alabama. I'm a national certified counselor. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. Hold on, I did say that, I'm sorry. And I'm a licensed trauma specialist. And in my tenure working with, I see mostly young children now, but I have seen all ages. And my field is specializing in child sexual abuse. And I have been qualified as an expert in 5 states to testify. I have been a special master appointed by judges locally for cases where they weren't sure on developmental needs of a child. But I have seen over 5,000 cases of child sexual abuse in this. I mean, they came into this county. I'm not saying they're from. Now, I just want to give you a few statistics because I see the time is ticking. But CDC and National Center for Child Abuse and Neglect estimates 559,000 cases of child abuse occur in the U.S. happened in 2024. Now, those statistics are a little bit behind. COVID got things a little bit messed up, but that's the best guess that they could give me. 1 out of 6 children will be abused this year, and 17% will be physical abuse, 10.6% sexual, emotional 6.8, neglect 74.3. And the court, once again, COVID has affected so much the reporting, but these are some additional interesting things. 76% of abusers of children are family members, are well known to them. And 70% are men. I'm sorry, gentlemen. 55% are over 12 years of age at the time. 45% are under 12 years of age at the time. 1 in 4 victims are girls. 1 in 9 are boys. And the boy victim rate has really gone down since I started practicing. And I think that is because we had, at that time, a lot of little boys who had come forward with the Catholic Church and the problems there, and that was a huge wave of children, many of whom I saw. Let me see, most distressing is the increase of child deaths, really homicides, I guess you would say, due to neglect or abuse. For this United States, we had 1,990 deaths, and 44% of them were under the age of 1 at the time of their death. And I think that, now I'll just give you a little bit of Alabama breakdown. Oh, I'm going to run out of time.
Got you a little more time.
Is that okay?
You do need to start wrapping it up, though.
Okay, I'm so sorry. Alabama has really how shall I say? They gave me today had a decrease in child abuse, and there were only 26,370 cases in 2023. And they attributed this. I talked to Nikki Whitaker today at the Care House, which I was a founding member, helped write the grant to get, so really dating myself here. Nikki was talking with me, and she said, in regard to the book issue, we have not had a problem brought to our center in 10 years related to material in a book. It has been social media, phones, computers, all the kinds of things that the kids are doing now. So I feel books are very important, and I think these books need to stay in the sections that they are assigned to by the librarians, and which you, the city council and mayor, have approved. Because, and Nikki and I have worked together for many years, we both concluded the prevention aspect has been the big factor. Alabama was on the cutting edge of 1980, I can't remember the year.
I'm going to give you a few more seconds. You're going to wrap up,
Okay.
just to be fair to everyone else.
The first National Child Advocacy Center, which now is the National Child, we have 11 child advocacy centers in our state, and since I see little ones, you know, my puppets and friends wanted to come with me, and we do things like No, the little seal about good touches and bad touches, but that's not going to get it for teenagers. And I have read the 2 books in question, and I feel that they need to be where they are, placed by the librarians, and if parents are uncomfortable with that, then they just need to stay with their child. That's how I feel, particularly for teenagers, because it just really, teenagers are not going to go to the adult section and ask somebody. And I love what I've done with the children. I will work till the day I die. I love seeing the little ones, but thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Hello, my name's Donald Furlong, and I live at 17606 Woodmere Court in Fairhope. What a tough situation we're in here. This is hard. I definitely appreciate everyone's concern on different sides of this issue. I'm a parent myself. We lived here for 10 years. I came here and have been in youth ministry. I was in youth ministry for the first 5 years, and I'm still volunteering with young people. And thank you for your service for all of our children that you've helped in therapy. I think I have appreciation for people who are concerned for what our kids are exposed to. I do. I have great appreciation for that. I'm a parent myself. I definitely don't want my children exposed to some of the things of this world, some things that many people in here have had happen to you that never should have happened to you, or people that you care about and love that have had things happen to them that are horrible. And it seems reasonable to have books shelved in the adult section, except that the librarians have poured through all of this more than I have, and they don't agree with this process. I'm not trying to take a side. I feel like we have to recover the being able to discuss things as a culture, to be able to have a reasonable discourse, and not just label someone on the other side as whatever we're labeling them. I'm a parent. I'm not perfect at it. My own kids could tell you that. I don't have a ton of expertise that I can say, but I know that being in youth ministry and volunteering around kids, I am so saddened by some of the things that they just say in the hallways of school or when they're on a camp out, and the things they repeat are saddening, and I know you know. I think that as a personal parent myself, having my child bring a book home that maybe is controversial, and then us discuss that is better than what they'll find from the hallways of the schools or on the internet. I just think that though I support people around the nation who are concerned about this issue, I think that going after the library is the wrong battleground. Librarians are trying to support you and support all of us. And if we have a problem with how they're doing that, we should volunteer at the library or get to know the librarians. I mean, do we know who they are? Have we volunteered there? Have we had chances to talk with them and bring up our concerns? Anytime I want to change an organization, I'm asked by the people in it to volunteer more. And I think that defunding, some of the other suggestions that I've heard are concerning to me, and I just, I'm really uncomfortable. I don't know all about the government processes, but I'm uncomfortable with some of the authoritarian measures that I've heard bringing against the library, and kind of, it's like being fired without a performance review. And so if there's anyone high up that is overstepping for whatever reasons, I hope that the leadership of the city would be able to step in where we can't, to support those at the library whose this is their field, and then the rest of us can get involved with them to try to change their courses if we think that's necessary. Thank you for your time.
My name's David Guestpass. I live at 40 Echo Lane. Just a couple of quick points. It seems to me that people need to have a little more faith in the professionals in the library, and faith in the parents of the young people who use the library, rather than arrogating to themselves the right to decide what books should go where. The greater threat, I think, is not that some kid is going to see something that they would rather he didn't see or she didn't see. The greater threat is that because of intimidation, because of threats, and you've been threatened this evening, that people will not go far enough, will restrict what they want, what they put in, more than they should. That is a decision for the library to make. If they make mistakes, they'll figure it out. But no one should be forced or threatened to do things because of pressure from people who don't have the faith in either the parents or the library to do what is right. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Carolyn Mayo, and I live at 133 Sandy Shoal Loop in Rock Creek, and you'll be delighted to hear that I'm not planning on speaking very long. I am, however, a very strong supporter of the library system and the professionals who do their jobs for us. I'm as much of a supporter that when the funding was being challenged, I gave money to fill that gap, along with many other Fairhope residents. So I wish you all to know that there are many of us are wearing these yellow tags today. Many more who are not going to speak tonight. There's a whole room full in the auditorium. But please continue to support the library as you should as elected officials, and continue to support them and the librarians themselves. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Laura Johnson. I don't envy any of you. Thank you so much for opening the floor for everyone to give their comments. I'm a resident of Daphne, Alabama, and I use the Fairhope Library, the Spanish Fort Library, the Daphne Library, and a few things stand out to me. The first thing is, it seems like every other Baldwin County library is in compliance. I know people have talked about experts. Everyone is beholden or reporting to others. There is a rubric that has been set, a standard that has been set. And my understanding, unless that's incorrect, Fairhope Library, the librarians, the board members of Fairhope Library are refusing to meet those standards. So we talk about expertise and that we want to trust the experts, that's fine, except we are not trusting certain experts when it comes to implementing these policies. The next thing, this isn't about free speech. The people have every right to publish their books, and people have the right to research their books. People have the right to obtain these books. We are simply talking about access. So when I take my child to the park, I expect that the park is a safe place for them to play and be without being disturbed, and it's a public space. So the library, I have the same expectation. So this is about access, this isn't about free speech. And then finally, the books are not going to be removed from the library. So there are certain books that aren't in the library right now. So these particular books are not going to be removed from the library, but we're simply talking about mature content, sexually explicit content being removed from the children's section, some of which are these board books that are targeting young children, so being removed from the children's section to be placed in another area. And once again, my other understanding is that if a parent wants to give their child, a 13-year-old, I believe, or above, all access to the library, including adult content, they have every right to exercise that privilege. So I just wanted to reemphasize this. I know we have a lot of people talking about personal experiences, which are wonderful. I have personal experiences as well. I'm just simply talking about enforcing the structure and being in compliance with what already has been set by experts. Thank you.
Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you for your time. Randy Went, Southern Run, Fairhope. I'm here to support our librarians. I really don't believe they're peddling smut out of our library. In my heart of hearts, I don't believe that. This whole mess came to my attention in September of '23, watching this council meeting, and a gentleman wanted you to fire one of our librarians because they thought she had Marxist material on her personal Facebook page. This tells me they have a political agenda. They're not here about the books. And I'm sorry, I thought it was beyond the pale, and I just needed to get off my chest. But thank you very much for your time. Good evening.
Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Andrew Mullick. I live at 20760 Lacey Road, and I'm here in support of the library. I was given a beautiful sticker. My daughter has read hundreds of books at the library. My 10-year-old, she reads a chapter book a night. My 5-year-old won the Summer Reading Program Award at the library, and she was given the opportunity to have lunch with the mayor. We were out of town, and the mayor's office was unable to reschedule. But we received this wonderful pen as part of her participation. So yes, I support and love the Fairhope Library. However, I would be appalled if my 10-year-old daughter, who does not have a phone, who does not have unrestricted access to the internet, would have read the content in a book that had to be moved called Let's Talk About It. That book had pornographic images in it. It is a grooming book. It is representing a way to teach children how to have oral and anal sex. This is what had to be moved, not because the librarians moved it, but because a concerned citizen brought it forward to the panel. There are several of those books. We should not be exposing 10-year-olds to this content. I don't have to, as a parent, I should not have to look over my daughter's shoulder and make sure that the content of the book that she gets at the library, because she reads tons of them. We read all kinds of books, and I shouldn't have to be the one to make sure that she's not going to see pornography in our public library. Mr. Robinson, you put it very well. You basically presented the issue, and you said, who is in favor of sexually explicit material being exposed to children? And I think that hits the nail on the head. Thank you for bringing this into focus for us tonight. I was in the overflow room, and pretty much everyone raised their hand to the first question, and only 2 raised it half-heartedly to the second. I think we can all agree that this is not okay. This is the issue. This is common sense. I work at a school. I am a pastor. I work with kids. I counsel kids. I counsel sexually abused and traumatized kids. I think anybody with any common sense knows we do not put Playboy and Hustler magazines in kids' sections. We should not be having this conversation. It is something that a little bit of common sense could go a long way. My concern as a parent and as someone who spoke to you before is that the city council has allowed this to become a monster by not reacting. This has been brought up so many times to you guys. To hear you, Mr. Burrell, say one person went to Montgomery and that was un-American, to me, that's disingenuous, to be quite honest with you.
You're going to let me respond to that?
Absolutely.
Well, you know, it wasn't exactly
can I finish
like
my
that.
statement first?
What I said was, absolutely. We've let people go by. You got don't
You
worry
will
about
let
that.
someone go by for
Don't
5
worry about
minutes.
that. What I said was, it was no due process for that panel to make a motion without calling the city of Fairhope or visiting the city of Fairhope and to pause the funding, let's get it right, they paused the funding with no due process, I said, that is not right. And I still don't believe it's right. Okay. And I'm not even telling you which side they should have chose. I'm just saying to judge somebody without, because in that case, anybody can go to anybody, raise the question, and then if somebody comes up in here, including you or anybody else, and raises a question in a council meeting, and this council is to say, let's pass a resolution right now, without ever having asked a question, that's wrong.
Thank you for clarifying that. You said that it was un-American. There is a case right now before the Supreme Court where parents are taking a case of explicit materials to a higher court. That is the American way, Mr. Burrell. And sometimes when you don't get answers at a local level, you have to go to the state level. The library was in violation. It's the only library that's in violation, and you guys did nothing. And so this is on you as far as I'm concerned. I was part of the emails. I saw the emails that went to you. I wrote emails to you. I stood before this council a year ago, and I said, please, can we have a city ordinance prohibiting obscene material and obscene things happening? You guys did not respond. You did nothing. We had a sexual drag show here in this building last year. We had condoms and other things given out to kids the year before that at a Pride event, and those things have been brought to your attention and nothing has been done that I am aware of. If I am wrong, please correct me. And so this is not a new issue. We are here tonight because it's not being addressed, and emails have gone unanswered, and you guys have done nothing. And so that is my concern, is this is not a hard issue. This isn't about censorship. Anybody in their right mind knows I would not put a pornographic magazine in a kid's library. We know this. This is not hard to figure out. And anyone that's going to conflate the issue of saving our library with protecting kids and make those mutually exclusive is wrong. They are not mutually exclusive. You can care about the library and you can want to protect kids as well. We are very careful to what our kids are exposed to. I have conversations with my 10-year-old all the time about the books that she reads, and she says, Daddy, what does this mean? We've had hard conversations, but for her to see the pictures and the books that are in this library, that would be very uncomfortable and very traumatizing, and this is not a new issue. You guys this has been brought to you before. I would truly appreciate you to act on it, do the right thing. The majority of Americans are against this. This is not about reading and free reading. This is about a grooming and woke ideology and exposing kids to sexual perversion. That's exactly what this is about. Thank you.
Council, I'm Brian Dassinger. You know who I am because I'm going to piggyback off of what Pastor Mullock just said. Our group has been coming here for a year and a half now, trying to get y'all to do the right thing and to remove some of these sexually explicit books into the adult section from the child section. We actually warned you several times by email. We've come here in person and warned you that you're at risk of losing your funding if you don't get in compliance with the Alabama Public Library system. Well, lo and behold, congratulations. Now that has happened. In spite of our warnings, you have allowed your Fairhope Library Board to not comply with the Alabama Public Library system, and now they have lost $42,000 per year. The only library in the state of Alabama to have lost their funding. And this fight is no longer against us. This fight isn't against us. This is against the state of Alabama now. This is against John Wall, who is the chairman of the Alabama Public Library System and also happens to be the chairman of the Alabama Republican Party. This war is with him. And instead of removing this board that caused this loss of funding, what do? You reappoint the same board and you give the leader of that board the Volunteer of the Year award. If this doesn't speak volumes about where you stand politically, I don't know what does. Let's talk about what this council has brought to the city of Fairhope. In your 5 years of your 4-year term, we now have 5 annual Fairhope Pride Festivals. We've had multiple sexually perverse, family-friendly drag shows, the latest of which took place in this civic center, and with no opposition, even though I personally sent you all a resolution pertaining to adult entertainment that could have prevented this. We've got a letter to Joe Biden inviting Fairhope to become a sanctuary city for Haitian immigrants. Thank you, Corey Martin. We get fined if we use our sprinklers in the summer if we have a drought. And now you have not only allowed, but pretty much endorsed non-compliance with the state of Alabama that has led to a loss of $42,000 for our city. I'm not saying this about you personally, but as representatives of this city, you all are about as worthless as tits on a bull. And I would seriously consider whether you all want to run for re-election this year or not. 75% of the voters of Fairhope voted for Donald Trump in this past election. Donald Trump and his administration have waged war on wokeness, the sexual indoctrination of children, and financial irresponsibility. Your actions as leaders of our city have clearly indicated that you are not on board with the Trump agenda. Therefore, I'm stating with no amount of uncertainty to everybody that's here and everybody that's watching, a vote for any of these people might as well be a vote for Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, AOC, or any other lunatic, crazy, woke Democrat. I want everyone also to know that qualifying for all of your positions is in June. The election is in August. If you are a Fairhope resident and are interested in running as a true conservative, somebody that cares about family values in this city, please contact us because we are ready to put people up against this council and this mayor and hopefully have a clean sweep. Thank you.
If I may set the record straight on one thing, I'll read a letter or an excerpt from a letter from the head of APLS dated February the 7th of 2025. I am thankful because we are so irresponsible that we let them go out of compliance, right, as Mr. Dassinger alleges. I am thankful that the Fairhope Library has now come into compliance. And I look forward to working with them as we strive to provide the best library experience possible to all Alabamans. That was just one sentence of many in a letter to the people of Fairhope dated February the 7th, 2025. So despite the accusations that we're responsible for this, and let me also say this, because, you know, there are people that have differences of opinions in this room, and everybody has a right to their opinion, and we should all respect. We're all, citizens of this community, and we should be respectful. I know for a fact that I don't agree with my wife on everything, and sometimes we agree to disagree, and we don't get a divorce because, she and I don't agree on everything, and we do not condone violating the state law on this city council. We, in fact, have said numerous times, we will abide by the state law. We do not believe that our library has intentionally ever violated the state law. It is that when they have been asked to review books, and they have been asked to review many, and I know that they have recently moved as many as 6 books. So to say that nothing's being done is also false. Books have been moved, other books are still in review, and, if somebody challenges a book and the Fairhope Library says that they're not going to move the book, that is their opinion, and if the state says you must, we're going to comply with what the state says. But there is a process by which that happens, and we just ask that the process be played out. And, I know that if you need to go to the doctor, you're not going to come to anybody on the council except maybe Corey for medical advice, and I am not a librarian. I'm not an expert in that. We have people that are highly educated in that. And as somebody said earlier, you have to trust somebody at some time. You don't always have to agree with their opinion. We get it. We understand that probably the sides on this are never going to agree. But there is nobody on this council is backing a library that intentionally is bucking the state law. There is a process, and we want to uphold the law, and we have said we will uphold the law. In fact, quoting Mr. Wall once again, he says he doesn't support book banning, which I'm not saying there is book banning here. There's moving of books. I would probably agree with all of that. But he says using the power, or he'd never support using the power of government to make decisions about what books parents allow their children to read. That's a parent's decision, and he will always defend that. We're simply trying to put that in the responsibility of the parents as well, and not be an overreaching government. The last thing that we want is an overreaching government. So, I'm hoping I'm speaking to people on both sides of this issue, not just one. I mean, not just one. We do not need to have a couple of books or a few books. I know somebody says there was 35. We didn't have those 35 books in our library. We don't need a couple of books that people have a difference of opinion of tearing this city apart. We are all neighbors, and we do not need that tearing our city apart. It's tough to say, we get it, but anyway, I felt the urge to say that at that time. I said earlier I may speak later to the issues, so I'm sorry. I'll yield my time.
However, I had two daughters who graduated from the IB program at Fairhope High School, and it is very important to me that my daughters would have access to that book sold and that book grown, that the library board said should stay in the teen section. Absolutely it should. If you move a book from the teen section that is not sexually explicit, might deal with some tough stuff, but if you move it to the adult section, that is banning the book for those kids. There are kids whose parents aren't going to come forward and come sign for them and do that. So in a sense, I know it's a technicality. You are banning a book to move it. I support the library board. I applaud them. I applaud you guys. As long as you support the library board, you'll have my vote. Thanks.
My name is Brianna Marsh. I live in Hallbrook Court in Fairhope, and I believe in due process. I believe in the right to read and equal access to information. I trust individual families to make choices for themselves. I trust and support the Fairhope librarians, and I support the Fairhope Public Library, and you will have my vote if you do too.
Hello, Gustavo Dwyer, Idlewild Subdivision. I have some prepared remarks, but I'm probably going to read some of them. But I want to say something, Mr. Robinson, that I think is going to upset a lot of my friends here, which is that I think that you're right. I think what you said at the beginning of this meeting is correct. I think that we're arguing about what is the definition of this. Like nobody that I know wants sexually explicit material in the library where children can access it. Nobody. So I want to talk about then some of the books that are being challenged and why they're being challenged. I said this when I was here last, but I read all of the books that are on the challenge list. All of them, cover to cover, every single page. And I have here, and they're redacted, so I can't see who submitted them, but I can see what they complained about. I have the forms that were submitted to the library where these parents said, these are my concerns about these books. And I'm not going to talk about all 35 of them, but I want to talk about a couple of them. And I talked about this one last time I was here, which is called Yes, No, A First Conversation About Consent. In this form, and I'll go ahead and read my prepared remarks here. I'll just say this. The book teaches teaches children that their bodies are theirs and that no one should do anything inappropriate with them. I think everybody can agree that that's important. And after reading this book, I didn't understand why it was on the challenge list, but then I read the form. And the form says that it's being challenged because the book teaches anatomically correct names of body parts. I know it probably sounds like I made that up, but I have the form. I'd be happy to show it to you. And so I want to read a quote here that I have. So why is it important for children to learn anatomically correct names of body parts? Quote, it can improve parent-child communication, prevent abuse, and set a foundation for healthy sexuality. It helps children communicate about inappropriate touching and sexual abuse, making it easier for them to report it to trusted adults. That quote came from Focus on the Family, which is a evangelical organization, not from some liberal blog or something. Reasonable people believe that teaching children anatomically correct body parts is important, and even Focus on the Family agrees. But according to the form, they want to shelve this book in a section that is for 18 and over, because it has the word nipples. I also like to talk about the book Grown. It's about an adult who grooms a young teenager into an inappropriate relationship, and is a cautionary tale that teaches young adults about grooming and trafficking. which unfortunately are real dangers, and it teaches teenagers how to recognize inappropriate behavior by adults and how to get out of dangerous situations. The book illuminates a very heavy topic, but it is not pornographic. It actually amazingly manages to tell a story about abuse without being explicit. I read the whole thing. I was like reading, I was just thinking like, maybe the next page is going to have something, pornographic. And I read the whole book, and I finished it, and I thought, what are we doing here? Why is this book being challenged? There are scores of other books like that I read, and I couldn't find anything objectionable in them. There are some books that I read, and I thought, this doesn't belong in the teen section, it doesn't belong in the children's section. Some of those books have been moved, including Let's Talk About It, which was talked about here recently. That book is no longer in the teen section. That was one of the ones that I thought didn't belong there. But I think if we let the library do what they're trying to do, which is go through these books and read them and figure out if they're appropriately shelved, then in the end, they're going to remove everything that is objectionable. But I do think that we disagree on what is objectionable and what isn't, because like having the word nipples in a book about children, to me, why are we doing this? Why are we moving that? Why are we talking about this? A lot of the books also deal with racism, eating disorders, LGBTQ issues, but they're not explicit. So why are we trying to say that they're pornographic? It's just, the whole thing is ridiculous to me. I want to end by saying that the library at my church looks a lot different than the Fairhope Public Library, and that's fine. They don't have the same purpose. They serve different purposes, and there are books in the Fairhope Public Library that are not my cup of tea, so you know what? I just don't check those out. But I don't want to remove them, and I don't want to take them away from anybody else, because a free society does not restrict information. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Cheryl Corvo. I am at 20 Burlington Drive, Fairhope, Alabama. I'm here once again to express my unwavering support for our public library, and I want to thank this council and our city for standing strong in the face of extremist attacks that do not reflect Fairhope's values of access, education, and inclusion. You've been targeted by a very loud but minority pushing censorship, not protection, and the community sees your leadership, and we stand with you. Let's also be honest, this was never about protecting children. Common sense also tells me it's about control. It's about erasing the lived experiences of LGBTQ youth, survivors of abuse, people of color, or anyone who just doesn't fit this very narrow definition of morality. I do not believe for a second that relocating books will not end these attacks. If these groups succeed in pushing these titles to the adult section, then next they'll argue that teens shouldn't have access to them either. Then they'll push removal altogether. This was never about age-appropriate access, it's about erasure. APLS's John Wall recently said libraries should be welcoming to all families, and I wholeheartedly agree, and that means all families, not just those who try to impose one worldview on the rest of us and our families. It is important to note that some of the people demanding change don't even live in the Fairhope community, and our public library should reflect the needs and values of Fairhope and not the agenda of a few local from outside of our city. Removal or restricting books because some people feel uncomfortable is not neutrality, it is censorship, and it threatens the liberty we all value. Ironically, liberty means the state of being free within society from oppressive restrictions imposed by authority on one's way of life, behavior, or political views. That liberty belongs to everyone, not just a select few. And let's be clear, keeping these age-appropriate books on the shelves is protective. They help prevent grooming and abuse by teaching children to recognize red flags. They prevent teen pregnancy by offering medically accurate information. They help protect kids from trafficking by teaching consent and boundaries, and to help and how to ask for help for information that is not a threat, and ignorance is a threat. Just like you, we are tired of this battle. We'd rather be focused on what really matters, like fixing our city's infrastructure and improving the lives of all Fairhope. But as long as our library remains under attack, we will continue to speak up and speak out, especially when our library is in full compliance and refuses to give in to extremist demands. Parents have every right to guide their own children, but they do not have a right to decide what's for everyone else's child and what they can access. And removing books that serve as a lifelines for LGBTQ youth and survivors and people of color, that's not protection, that's cruelty. And there are already clear legal standards like the Miller test for what constitutes as obscene content. These books don't meet that standard, and that's why we trust our librarians, not political pressure, to meet those decisions. Fairhope stands with our library, and always we appreciate y'all and your time for giving us this time to speak. Thank you.
Hello, I'd like to thank you for your time. I'm Kay Clemens. I live on Holbrook Court in Fairhope, and I just want to voice my support for the Fairhope Public Library and the librarians, and I hope they can have the ability to continue doing a good job for their community. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tim Dernlin, and I served as head of school at a classical Christian school here in town for 3 years, and now I serve as a member of our team that operates nationally with the Association of Classical Christian Schools, and I also serve as an elder at Church of the Redeemer here in Fairhope. And censorship's been mentioned a couple times, and there's 2 million books published every year. And so if we just back up a few years before these books were even ordered, we know there's some mistakes that have been made. So I'd ask that the books be removed, not just reshelved, but removed completely from the library. There's always books that won't be ordered, so we could consider that censorship. The Fairhope Public Library can't have 2 million books a year come in and be shelved, so we can't order every book. So we're always making decisions. That could be considered censorship just by not ordering some of the books. So I'm just asking that these books be removed. The librarians are doing their very best, but they do need some oversight. And so I'm asking for that to be advocated for. And we all need oversight, right? When I worked at the school, I had a board that I reported to. So we all need that. And I appreciate all your work on this. Morality and virtue has been mentioned a couple times, and so if we go back to Aristotle, who defined virtue for us with the golden mean in the Nicomachean Ethics, there's extremes, right? And so I've heard the word tolerance, and if tolerance is taken too far, then it's permissiveness, and anything goes. We just don't have any rules that we follow, and we have rules being passed down to us. So that would be an extreme of tolerance that is a vice, according to Aristotle. And then on the other side, we have rigidity. And that would say no books in this library unless they're the church fathers or something like that. And we don't want that either. So just hitting good common sense middle ground on this, I think, is really appropriate. And so I thank you, gentlemen, for your time. I thank you for your efforts in this. And just reading one more piece of wisdom from Scripture. Christ said in the book of Matthew, "Whoever receives a little child receives me. But whoever causes one of these little ones to sin, it'd be better for him to have a millstone wrapped around his neck and be thrown into the depths of the sea." Christ brought love and forgiveness for sins, not to throw us all into the depths of the ocean where we'll die, but to cleanse us from our unrighteousness, bring us in restoration, and to live in glory with him. So, gentlemen, thank you for your time.
My name is William Henry. I live in Fairhope on Nichols Avenue. I had no intention to speak tonight until the fellow spoke a few minutes ago, making it political. I just want to tell you guys, please, don't be bullied by these people to do their agenda. It sounds like you're trying not to, but I'm just saying they have now shown their true colors, and it is political. So please, stand by our library. They're the experts that know how to do it. Thank you.
is Emily Mann. I live on Twin Beach Road in Fairhope. I want to start by saying the 6 of you should not have been called worthless. You should not have been threatened tonight. That is unfair and frankly unprofessional. I am a supporter of the library and I am an educator. Something I want to say to everyone in this room is these are 2 books that we are fighting over. You should, as a parent, be willing to look at the books your children are reading. The library has been told that it is passed, it was in compliance, 1 person complained, and then due process was thrown out the window. If you are a parent, you should look at the books your children are reading. I teach high schoolers. Not many of them love to read anymore, but the ones who do love to read and who are intelligent had parents with them at the library when they were children, looking at books and reading books with them. Thank you.
Good evening. Carol T. Bay, 98 Paddock Drive, Fairhope. As a grandmother, I take my grandchild to the library often, and we enjoy it. I trust the education of the librarians and their decisions, and I hope y'all will too. And I appreciate you. Good evening.
My name is Amy Ananth. I'm a resident of Fairhope. I just want to be one more voice to say that I support the mayor, the city council, and the library, and that you have a very difficult job being politicians. I hope that you will consider how you might respond if someone came in and threatened you the way you've been threatened tonight about the issue regarding the logs or about how lot lines should be subdivided. You would consider it based on what the people of Fairhope support and what you know is best for the community. I stand by the library. Thank you.
I too did not intend to speak tonight. I came just to support my fellow Fairhopians. I am a resident of Fairhope. My name is Dr. Shemingasevich. I am a 30-year educator, and I live off of Ridgewood Circle. I'm here to support the city, my community, and my library. I appreciate the hard work that the trained professionals are doing every day to try to make sure that they are doing what is in the best interest of our families, our children, and our community. And thank you to all of you for giving us a moment to talk about this. I have a feeling we'll be here a long time and not come to a decision tonight, but I wanted to add my voice. Thank you.
Hey, my name is Lindsay Wyndham. I live in Fairhope, 22811 Hillwood Road. In Fairhope, of course, I support the library. I wanted to just mention that there is the tiered library card system, so parents can take advantage of that. And what was I going to say? My mom is a librarian and voted for Trump twice. If we can have conversations about hard things, we grow together. I thought that the idea to have a mediator was a really good one. So, thank you. That's it. I support the library. Thanks.
Anyone else?
Good evening, council members and mayor. My name is Stephanie Jernan, and I live in the city limits of Fairhope. I've got to say that I couldn't be more disappointed in a group of people whom I have voted to elect. I remember conversations I had with many of you many years ago when you were campaigning, when you proclaimed your conservative values and stances as well as your church attendance. The disappointment continued after our mayor, Ms. Sullivan, and council president, Mr. Burrell, bequeathed the award of Volunteers of the Year to our Fairhope City Library Board just days after they were responsible for losing our state funding. If you look at the voter and precinct analysis of Fairhope, this is a staunchly conservative area, 3-1 in fact. We need city councilmen and a mayor who reflects the conservative values of our city, because we obviously don't have that right now. I do want to thank Mr. Robinson, though, for speaking out this afternoon. If you're watching or listening and you want to run as an actual conservative, please reach out at runforfairhopecitycouncil@gmail.com. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jessica Dees. I live at 23885 Main Street in Fairhope. I'm a mother of 4, and I just wanted to come and express my support of our library, the board, and all of you. Life is very hard in a pluralistic democracy, and this evening attests to that reality, and so I do not envy all of you. I did just want to point out one thing that the good pastor said about the Supreme Court case in regards to what children are reading. That is a case about public school curriculum, which is a different situation than what we're dealing with here, which is a public library. And I think what this gentleman said about Aristotle's ethics, I think it's good to remember that we need to apply the virtue of courage and evaluating the situations that are placed before us. And this situation is not a public school dictated curriculum. It is a public library where you are not forced to go and no one's making you do anything. And so I hope that you can exercise the virtue of courage in examining and keeping your courage to allow the funding to remain in place and support the board members who are doing everything that they can to preserve this space of freedom in our library that's a crown jewel in our community. So, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. I'll close public participation. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll have someone.
No, she's right here.
Podium now.
Rebecca Watson, Fairhope, Alabama. I just left some petitions right there that we had signed. So there's been a lot that's been said tonight, and since I'm the one who went to the APLS meetings 3 times, I'll give you a little bit of facts. It really doesn't matter what our personal opinions are, what we want. I support the library. I have a sticker, and I had to put it on just to get in here because I was being told I had to sit in the overflow. So I do support the library. I actually give them money. I have a little boy that I take probably once or twice a week, and we get books. And so you can support the library and not support every single decision that they make, just like anybody else. So I do realize that we've been coming here for quite a while. And so when there's no movement on the local level, you tied the hands. We had to go to the APLS. Now they have policies that need to be followed. And so I took them some books and I showed it to them during an open meeting with my 3-minute time limit. And I asked if they were in violation, and they said yes. And I said, well, what do I do? And they said, you need to give your library another opportunity. You have to do your diligence before we will ever address this. So I came back. These library meetings are every 2 months. So I came back, I followed up with the library board, I did my due diligence, I requested reconsiderations on books. They were all denied, and I read a lot of books to make sure that they were in violation before I requested them. And because nobody seems to know what the definition of sexually explicit is, I'd like to read that, because this is the definition that has been applied and that has been provided to all the library directors in the state of Alabama from the APLS. It's also in our Alabama code. It is, let's see, I want to give you the code number, 13A-12-200.1 for explicit content. Sexually explicit is defined as an actual or simulated A, sexual intercourse, including genital to genital, oral genital, and anal genital, or oral anal, whether between persons of the same sex or the opposite sex. So these are not a target on LGBTQ books at all. B, sexual excitement. C, nudity. D, bestiality. E, masturbation. F, sadistic or masochistic abuse. Or G, lascivious exhibition of the anus, genitals, or pubic area in any person. So if there are books in the minor section that mention any of this, according to the APLS, they're in violation. That is the policy. If you don't like the policy, go up there, take your time away from your family, just like I have, and reverse the policy. So if you don't like the policy, exercise your freedom and go up there and ask them to change it. Additionally, it's the library's responsibility to provide the list. The library, according to the policies, is supposed to weed their collection. It is not the responsibility of the patrons of the library to weed the collection and start making a list. I have never made a list. I don't have a list, and I'm not interested in a list. I don't get paid by the library. So the library, according to the policies, needs to weed their collection. Once they do that, they need to make a list, and they need to provide it to the APLS and show proof that they have relocated the books. The reason that the Fairhope Library lost their funding is because the Fairhope Library had a list of 30-some-odd books that they had, that I open record requested to get a copy of, because I wanted to see what books were on there. This is not a book that, or a list that parents made. This is a library list. They gave that list to me, and in their meeting, in their board meeting, not this one that just happened, but the one before that, they voted not to revisit the 30-some-odd books that were on the list that they had kept on their computer. Ann Johnson warned them in that meeting that they needed to revisit the books. 4 of them said, we're not interested. They ruled, and it was done. That is why they lost the funding in that moment. That is why it was paused, because those books, there are books on there that violate the APLS policies. And because they refused to revisit the books, they would have sat on the shelf for another 3 to 4 years after the APLS policies were put in place. And additionally, I have gone through the meeting minutes. I have looked at all of the library policies. I have done my diligence before I ever even went to the APLS. And I can literally stand here and cite every single thing. But I want to tell you that this was from the meeting minutes of the February 19th, 2024 meeting. This was the Fairhope Library meeting. New business. All trustees were given a copy of the 67-page Fairhope Public Library Policies and Procedures to read and study in preparation for a review and discussion in the April meeting. and shared that the Alabama Public Library Service letter from Director Nancy Pack concerning changes to the administrative code. APLS is the governing body for all Alabama public libraries, and the code contains the regulations and procedures that Alabama public libraries they must follow in order to receive state aid. These changes will impact members of library boards across the state. Proposed changes include library boards will need to establish written guidelines for where sexually explicit or other inappropriate material should go in the library. Boards will also need to establish a process for staff to seek approval for materials recommended, displayed, or promoted to children or youth. Chair comment. The first part of this proposed change suggests that there is even such a thing as sexually explicit content aimed at children, which is simply not the case. Okay, so this is where I think the problem is. I agree, we are saying the same things. I listen to many people speak up here, and I'm like, I feel the same way. This is not about censorship. This is not about your First Amendment rights being violated. This is about following the policies, and that's it. So if you are beginning with a board that doesn't believe that there's any such thing as sexually explicit material, we don't have anywhere to go because we're not even beginning with a foundation. That question that you asked, her hand would have been the first one to go up because she's saying it doesn't exist. So yeah, whatever's in there is appropriate. We have to have a foundation where we can sit down and have a discussion. And yes, I think that our librarians are amazing. As a matter of fact, I love the new librarian. He has relocated 4 books. And I think that he's a smart guy, and I think that he's very well-rounded, and I trust him. But we have a library board that has gone rogue with absolutely no common sense. It's an ego-driven board where they want to keep whatever they want in there, and I would like to see their professional credentials because I don't think that they're librarians. And so now we have a board that has a decision that's being made that lasts for 5 years, which is why their funding was paused. And they don't have to move any books, by the way. They don't have to. They just won't receive the funding. And I think it's important to understand if they want to take the money that has been raised by Read Freely Alabama, because I have gone in and I have analyzed all 658 donations over 60 pages, and I have itemized every single donation. And right now we have $16,651 of the $46,922 came from Fairhope residents. We have over 64% of that money came from people that do not live here. Some people don't even live in this state, and some are from out of the country. They are tied to a national organization that literally turns towns like ours upside down and inside out, pushing their agenda, and anybody can go on everylibrary.com and look at it. I'm not making any of this stuff up. Additionally, there were, out of the 658 donations, 171 of those donations came from Fairhope residents. So there was a 25.99% of the people that live here gave money and donated to that campaign. So that's 74% of the people don't live here. And if our library takes that money, do we even have a public library any longer? We should be able to come and have a conversation. But we can't do that in our library board meetings because we are attacked. We are called terrible names. It is unruly. And so we are here. We are here in a city council meeting because we believe that you guys can at least get some order and maybe we can be listened to. And that doesn't mean that both sides one side has to be right. That's not the point of it. But the point is, there is sexually explicit material in the minor section. And if it violates the APLS policies, it should be relocated. And if they don't want to relocate it and they don't care about the money, we should not be allowing them to take money that didn't come from Fairhope, Alabama, because then it's no longer a representation of what we do when we live here. And I'm not just some lady that went up to the APLS. I'm a mother. I pay a lot of taxes here. I love this community. I am invested in this community. I am not moving. And I am a good person. And I am also the kind of a person that loves to sit down at the table and have conversations and try to work things out. But I will tell you right now, when you're dealing with people that have literally threatened to hang me from a tree and vandalized my property because I don't agree with what they're saying, that is a problem. And so if you want to talk about crazy people showing up, don't include me in that realm, okay? I'm a reasonable lady. I think we need to protect the kids, and relocating books from a minor section into the adult section and having a parent give an all-access library card where that kid can go anywhere they want in the library and grab the book that they want seems reasonable to me. I don't see what's wrong with that. And if you don't want an all-access library card and you want your kid's library card to be restricted because at 13, you don't need a parent in the library, and that's the way it should be. You should be able to drop your kid off and say, I'll pick you up later, and you don't need to worry about the books that they're pulling off the shelf, learning about how to go on the internet and look up porn, which is what I found, along with bestiality, along with kids getting raped, and I do think the book sold is important. I have never said it's not. It can be just as important in the adult section. And the other thing is, we have the American Library Association, which is not, the APLS has disaffiliated from the ALA. And so our Fairhope Library is part of the ALA. So there's also a disconnect there. And there's a reason that the APLS is disaffiliated from them. So I think listening and talking is great, but I feel like because you guys don't know what sexually explicit is, can we just move to defer this to the state and just let them rule on it, and whatever they say, we all just go with that? Because we're not getting anywhere. It's just, it's like Groundhog Day. Thank you.
Hold on, I have a question. Stay right there. No. So we were sent some information on what the actual statute reads, and that wasn't it. Like hold on. We were sent some information about what the statute was, and it had more wording in it. It had something to do with content or context.
Well, there is.
Hold on.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Sorry. Jeez.
It had something to do with content, it had something to do with context, and it had something to do with value, artistic, literary value. Now, it did have those first words of use that this young lady just spoke, but there was a lot of words that were left out from what I was given as a guideline, whether they were following the rule of law or not, which then puts it in an opinionated state because it's so vague. And you're right, it would then be the guy, John Wall, to say, yeah, I believe that's it. That's one guy, and that's not the people, in my opinion. So, but that was not what we were giving as an example of what the APLS statute reads. So is that different? Did I not get something different, or what's going on?
I'd be happy to answer you.
Go ahead.
I know what you're saying. So I only had 3 minutes. Apparently, I went over.
No, you got as much time as you need.
But
Go
that's
ahead.
why I didn't read the entire
No, read the
page.
entire thing, though.
Okay. The following definition of inappropriate to minors, which, by the way, in the APLS policies, they explicitly say sexual explicit material, which is why I read sexually explicit. But I will read you. It's all one page, which is probably why you got. I don't know what they gave you, but I'm listening to your wording.
Does it have the words
And
literal, artistic, context,
let me
and
just
value?
read this. I'll read it because I don't know what they gave you, but I'll read what I have here. The following definition of inappropriate to minors is synonymous with harmful to minors as defined by the Alabama Code Title 13A, Criminal Code 13A-12-200-1. Inappropriate for minors is defined as the average person applying contemporary community standards would find that the material taken as a whole appeals to the prudent interest of minors. And B, the material depicts or describes sexual conduct, breast nudity or genital nudity in a way which is patently offensive to prevailing standards in the adult community with respect to what is suitable for minors. And C, a reasonable person would find that the material lacks as a whole serious literary, artistic, political, or scientific value for minors. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes. So
Okay.
I was just wondering if I did not have my due diligence correct, because what you read at the beginning was just only not even 1/5 of that whole deal.
I read
And it
this
kinda-
much.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
what's that, half
yeah.
the page?
So, but the rest has to be read in order to get a whole idea.
Okay,
of
well,
what
let me
the-
finish reading
of
then.
what the statute is.
Let me finish reading then. Furthermore, for the purpose of this library policy, the above terms are defined below as derived from Alabama Code 1975 13A-6-111, masturbation. Manipulation by hand or instrument of the human genitals, where one's own or another's for the purpose of sexual stimulation. Material, any book, magazine, newspaper, printed or written matter, writing, description, picture, drawing, animation, photograph, pictorial representation, depiction, or image. Nudity, the lewd showing of the post-puberal human female breasts below. I mean, this could go on for a while.
Yeah, well, no, the point I'm
Below-
making is that A, B, and C has to be referred to. All of these things you're reading now, you have to go back and read all of the code A, B, and C to make a decision.
That's fine,
my
but,
point.
but you guys specifically said up here, we don't know what sexually explicit is. That's why I read to you what sexually explicit was. What I read to you is the definition of sexually explicit. This up here is inappropriate to minors. And then this down here is the definitions. So when you say you don't know what sexually explicit was, I was just reading the sexually explicit definitions in the, for time's sake. But again, I don't know what you were sent and who sent it to you. I just,
It was that.
your wording sounded like this.
Yeah, it was that. I just wanted to make sure that I had it correct in
Okay.
my mind. Yes,
Okay,
ma'am. Thank
all
you.
right, yep.
Thank you. Hi, gentlemen. I worked really hard on a 3-minute rousing speech about the First Amendment, but I feel like with the previous speaker giving a lot of information that may or may not, mostly not correct, I feel like I do need to set the record straight. Actually, I feel like I've got infinite time because, you know, everybody does. So here is censorship terminology. Okay, so, Councilman Martin, you were correct to bring up the Miller test for obscenity. It is very similar to the definition of harmful to minors that you'll find in Alabama Code. It's right there on that colorful page of censorship terminology. It's a 3-pronged test to decide if something is obscene. The first prong is about, whether it appeals to the prurient interest. I know that's a hard word to say. Prurient, meaning morbid interest in sex. Basically, is it titillating or arousing? So that's the first prong. The second prong is about sexual content, which is, depictions of sexual conduct. It is easy to do to switch those words around, which I'll get to later. And the third is about the work taken as a whole. Does it lack literary, artistic, political, one other adjective value that I'm not thinking of right now because I don't have it in front of me. So that is the 3-prong test. Now, the folks here who are upset about content in the library seem to be really focused on prong 2. And that's okay. But in order for something to be obscene or harmful to minors, all three prongs have to be met. And so we're saying the work taken as a whole is designed to appeal to the prurient interest, and the work taken as a whole lacks any real literary, scientific, political, or otherwise value. I understand that the previous speaker referenced a attachment that I've seen come from an email that is going out from State Library Board Chairman John Wall. I feel like it's very important to point out that definition is not a formal definition. It is a cobbled together Frankenstein's monster of a definition, and Wall has, whether intentionally or unintentionally, because I proved earlier it is easy to do, switched the words conduct for content. And Councilman Robinson, you're a lawyer. You know semantics really do matter when we're talking about the law. Conduct is part of that second prong of the Miller test. Content is not addressed. Sexually explicit or sexual content is not addressed anywhere in state or federal law. The law is obscenity or harmful to minors. Nothing in the library should meet the criteria for obscenity nor for harmful to minors. That is so important to point out. I'd also like to point out, let's see, we've got a lot of stuff to correct, and I know everybody's tired, but I feel like the record needs to be set straight. Let's see, we talked about the analysis of the donations. For what it's worth, we had an outside analysis. I think two separate scientists working separately on this have come up with roughly, 41.6% of the donations to the Fairhope Public Library came locally. 40, and I believe, I have to get the methodology because this was delivered to me right before this meeting, and I haven't gotten to quiz the person who did this about their methodology, but I'll get the information to you. So that they say local area, so I'm guessing that means Baldwin or Eastern Shore. I will have to find out exactly how they define that. Then 17.8% came from other parts of Alabama. That's important to note because the whole state of Alabama is watching very, very closely what we do here in Fairhope. Whether we capitulate to extortion from the State Library Board Chairman, who, for reasons that we won't speculate about, gives false definitions for legal terms. And then, I went off on a tangent. And then 40% was outside or anonymous, meaning we can't tell where those donations came from. They could have been from here in Fairhope. They could have been from Timbuktu. We don't know. But the vast majority came from inside Alabama, with a significant portion, 41.6%, coming from our local area. And it is important to note, when we first started, and I'm sorry, I didn't say my name, y'all. I just launched into it. Elizabeth Williams, 702 Greenwood Avenue, Fairhope, mother librarian, Baldwin County chapter organizer for Read Freely Alabama, which is an organic grassroots organization founded here to push back on censorship. So what I heard the previous speaker mention is that this was some kind of nefarious outside plot to fund our library by some outside group. Well, I will tell you it's not true. Read Freely Alabama is tiny. We're grassroots. And that means that we don't really have the resources to get up and running a website within hours of a vote in Montgomery to defund our library, pause funding for our library. But you know who does is every library. What they are is an advocacy organization that works to to promote policies that fund libraries across the U.S. They're a wonderful organization. I do encourage you to follow the advice of the previous speaker and go to their website. You will see that there is nothing untoward. They're a 501c4, don't quote me, 4 or 3, but they're a nonprofit organization that we are affiliated with. We do not receive any money from them. What we do get is support and resources like being able to get a fundraising website up, being able to launch a petition. They can do those things for us that we don't have the resources to do. Lord. May I say my little speech now?
Wrap it up.
Thank you. Oh, and my computer died anyway. So I'll just say, yeah, there's been a lot said tonight. Y'all know me, I can talk policy all day. That doesn't inspire people. What inspires people is is the U.S. Constitution. The First Amendment specifically is what we're talking about here. People from all over are watching what we do here. Do we stand up to censorship, or do we roll over? Do we just move the books? It would be so easy, right? Wouldn't it? We could all go home. Lord have mercy. I haven't tucked my child in tonight. I would love to be at home. The thing is, if we do that, we are letting down all the other libraries in the state who are watching to see what we do. They don't have our resources. They don't have 47 grand that they could raise overnight. We have the ability to stand up and to say, not like we're not doing what you said, but we're going to abide by the law. We're going to follow the process. We're going to follow procedure. It is about due process. And right now, our library board is following the procedure. They are reviewing these books. These are volunteers, y'all. I was about to say they didn't sign up for it, but they did. These are volunteers. They are reading all of these books to review them for age appropriateness. They have already done that with 2 books. I am sorry that certain members of our community did not like the outcome of those reviews, but that does not make these books explicit, obscene, inappropriate. I won't talk about the value of these books in the teen section because there is no sexual content that anybody has been able to identify in the sections for children, which are downstairs. And if there were, I'm pretty sure they would have found it by now. So I'm going to say that there's nothing, one book on puberty that does not go into any explicit details. I recently took my 7-year-old son to the library and let him pick out a book that he really enjoyed. And when we got home, turns out he learned a rude word from that book. It wasn't a curse word, but he did really enjoy saying it 30 times in a row. And so, you know what? Instead of saying, let's move the Dog Man series to the adult section so no parent will ever have to deal with hearing the word panties 30 times in a row, instead of saying that, I said, well, you know what, that's on me. I took my precocious early reader's 7-year-old into the section for 7 to 12-year-olds. There was a really good chance he was going to find something that was just a little bit too old for him. That is the same deal we're dealing with in the teen section. There is a wide variety between the 13 and the 17-year-olds. If you're really concerned about your little 13-year-old, be present, talk to them, have those conversations, but don't take those books away and hide them in the adult section where they do not belong, where they are not accessible. Do not hide them just because you're uncomfortable with the content. So thank you, everybody, for letting me have some extra time, for standing up to censorship, for holding the line, for standing up for due process, for standing up for the First Amendment. Thank you so much. Thank you for supporting our wonderful Fairhope Public Library.
Good evening. I am sorry for prolonging this one moment, but I'm just going to do it for just a moment. My name is Donna Nichols. I live here in Fairhope, actually in Point Clear, Colony at the Grand, and I am a paralegal, and I just had to look up one thing beyond the Miller test, which you got. The Miller test is a 3-pronged test meant to define obscenity for adults, not for children. The U.S. Section 1470, I don't have my glasses, sorry, of Title 18 United States Code prohibits any individual from knowingly transferring or attempting to transfer obscene matter using the U.S. mail or any means of facility of interstate or foreign commerce to a minor under 16 years of age. In addition, Section 1466A of Title 18 United States Code makes it illegal for any person to knowingly produce, distribute, receive, or possess with intent to transfer or distribute visual representations such as drawings, cartoons, or paintings that appear to depict minors engaged in sexually explicit content and are deemed obscene. I could go on, but this says these are laws to protect children from obscene or harmful material on the internet and in books. And so we are not talking about just the Miller test, because everybody uses that to define that 3-pronged test to say what is defining obscenity and sexual misconduct, all of those things. You do not go only by the Miller test. You go by further United States Code, which overrides, by the way, Alabama law. But the Alabama law you are discussing, honestly, also affects this and addresses it. And so you are right in allowing the APLS, ALPS, whatever it is, to make those determinations according to Alabama law, and hopefully some lawyer is also looking at it and saying it abides by the United States Code, which we all live by. We cannot make decisions whether based on First Amendment. These are based on that. They do not conflict with the First Amendment. They define it. Thank you.
I'm Janine Normand, and I know all of you because I've been a devoted volunteer for the city of Fairhope since 2002. And I think you're doing a wonderful job, and I want to set the record straight that the library is in compliance with the state law. John Wall said so. And this pause in funding is supposed to be at some time unpaused because he couldn't find anything wrong. So I just want to set that record straight. And also what was said earlier by, I won't call any names, that Madam Mayor, Council President, and City Council members, you were called woke. I've known you all for a long time, and that's not a word I would use. I think you are very sensible, and I do think that you will make the right decision, and the world is watching. I have friends overseas, and they say the news about the Fairhope Library kerfuffle has made it into international news. I heard it on Deutsche World News, too. And so I just want y'all to realize that the majority of the citizens who are registered to vote and who actually go and vote are going to vote for you. And so don't worry about any of these threats that you're getting. But yes, we are. I agree with what you were saying, Councilman Robinson, that we are all concerned about the children. And what we're doing is appropriate. So continue to support the library, and I'll do everything I can to campaign for y'all. Thank you very much.
Brent Shaw, 19721 Hunter's Loop. Sometimes, unfortunately, morality and culture and politics intersect. And here we are. And this is what it's really all about. And I would just simply say the things that were shared earlier about the laws and how you define obscenity and those kind of things are meant primarily in that context about adults. We're talking about children. And I think we set guidelines for our children in lots of areas. We set restrictions. As far as I know, still in Alabama, you can't legally drive until you're the age of 16 by yourself. You can't purchase alcohol or tobacco or those kind of things until you're 21. And on I could go. You can't even get a tattoo legally without your parents' consent until you're 19. So we can argue about some of the extremes, and we hear the extremes in a lot of different ways. What I would simply say is this: when there's confusion, to me the easiest thing to do is say what really is best for our children. Someone tonight spoke about the infrastructure of our city and how we need to maintain it, and I certainly agree with that, and we need to spend lots of money on that. But I would say the moral infrastructure of our community is equally, if not more important, especially when it comes to how we treat our children. So if we are going to err, I hope you'll help us to err on the side of our children. And that's simply the statement I would make tonight. I'm praying for you. I know this is a difficult decision. It's messy. You can go a lot of different ways with it, quite simply. But it's not about the most educated person. I think sometimes it just comes down to the word common sense, and a word we don't hear a lot, wisdom. And I'm praying for wisdom for you guys. You need it. I need it. We all need it to do what's best for our community. And to me, the simple solution has been offered, and that is simply to make sure that some of the books They may not be there now, but they were there in the past, or moved to an area where they're not easily accessible by children unless their parents want to give them the authority to do that, and if that's okay with me, if that's okay with their parents. So I would just say, I think you're ready to go home. I am. Could I just offer a prayer for you guys? Would that be okay? Father, I love this city, and it's just a privilege to live here, and we're all citizens, and we don't all get it right. Heaven help, I know I mess up enough, but Father, we're talking tonight about issues that relate to the most important resource we have, our children. And so I just pray for wisdom, and I pray that we'll follow the guidelines that need to be followed. I pray, Father, that the council, the library board, everyone involved will really seek to say, is this best for our children? And if we can answer yes, then we're probably in the good place. Give us wisdom. I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
So, yeah. So, Council President, I'm going to say something before we get out of here. And you're
Well,
about
we
to
got
read the
quite a
thing.
ways
Go
to go.
ahead.
Yeah, I want to make sure that the
Yeah.
public participation is over. All right, I'll close public participation. Go ahead, Councilman Martin.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, we sit here for 3 hours listening to our community, and we've been called names, we've been lied on, we've been, teeth gritted at us, and I know it's kind of sad because we've done this before historically, and I've said this before, the last thing that the gentleman just spoke is true, and I've been sitting here thinking it the whole time. What we all want is for freedom to exist. We want people to be able to think for themselves unless they're not cognitively able to think for themselves, and then we help them, guide them. And at this point, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about that line with children, teenagers that may have a problem, but we also want to put the parents in the driver's seat. You got one bureaucracy over here, you got one over here, and really there's no resolution. There's no right or wrong. We should find a way to meet in the middle and protect the kids at all costs. I don't think no one here wants to hurt a child, and God knows, anybody that knows me know that I do not want to hurt a child. There has to be an opportunity for all the intelligence that we have to come to a solution to where we maintain our democracy, which is the liberty that we all speak about. But at the same time, we take on the responsibility of knowing better what's right and what's wrong in the sense of some type of common thread of morality. And I believe we have the capacity to do that. But we have to come together. The pointing the fingers at one another, the calling names, that's not going to get us there. That's only going to divide us more. Some people are able to tolerate it and they just bow their head and they take it on the cheek and they move on. But all people are not made like that. So why tempt them? Why put them in a situation to why now they want to call you a name and point their fingers at you? It's unnecessary for us to continue to behave in such a manner when I know in my heart of heart, we all know it's wrong. We come from the same God. I promise you that. I read the book. We come from the same God. The same God. And we're looking to do the same things. It has never changed. I read the stories. So, my point, I was writing here, there has to be a way that without offending the librarians, without offending anybody, that when these books that are reviewed and they have some type of equivocation to them, any type of equivocation, that book has to be directed through a process to where that parent has to be acknowledged, has to be put back in the driver's seat. Now, we can't save everybody. We can show them love, and love will save them every time, I promise you. We can't say, you can't do that, you're wrong. We may know they're wrong, but that's the freedom. That's the freedom. But we can't have that little middle ground to where it always, no child, if he gets dropped off, he still has to have some type of connection. If he picks those equivocated books up, where it goes back to the driver's seat of that parent. And if that parent does not identify that child or does not answer the phone, I got here text, call, email at that moment, then that child cannot get that book. It's not hard. I just took that from just listening to everybody. I don't have a side. I have a community. And I want best for my community. So now, if this side could come talk to this side and put that, what I just put on the table together, I think we'll have a solution. Everybody has a problem, but how many solutions do we have? So I'm going to challenge you guys to come together now and speak on what I just presented and see if we can come up with a solution. And we'll keep our democracy, we'll keep our freedom, we'll keep our friendships, we'll keep our children, and most importantly, we'll keep love. If you put that first, my friends, you have order. I promise you that. I yield, Council President.
All right, I'll go to the next item on the agenda. I'll read a letter from City Attorney. It says, as City Attorney.
I did have a comment or two I was going to make. I'm sorry. I thought he was yielding to the next on down.
I was.
Comment about the library. I know you're ready to get out of here.
No, too late for that. Too late for that. We're here now.
I just want everybody to hear this letter before they get out of here.
Yeah,
because it says we have 60 more minutes when we finish this.
We're here. I tried to warn you about that.
I just want to say, you know, I know that there's a process in place. The library, per this list, you know, they have moved 6 books currently. They did vote, the library board, they did vote to review an additional 12 books, I believe, that had previously been kept in place. And then they did review 2 books sold and grown that they voted to keep in place where they were. And both of those books were read by 2 people on the library board. Had already been stated by the library director that he or she felt they were age appropriate. And so they kept those in place. I think we're probably going to have a hard time having everyone find some middle ground. I certainly applaud the suggestion, and I hope that they will take heart and try to find that middle ground. I do think there is a process in place that, if given time, will most likely lead to the right decisions on the different books. I did, after that meeting, read one of the books that was voted to be upheld and read it. I thought it was very well written, sold. I felt like it was appropriately shelved in the teen section. I'm not a librarian, that's just my opinion, but I do lean on the library staff and on the board. And the board, you know, as mentioned earlier by a few people, you know, they're unpaid volunteers. They don't have an agenda. They really aren't pushing some kind of narrative. I seriously doubt they would have all volunteered for this job had they known what they were stepping into. But they've managed to continue to serve, and they're trying to do things the right way. They're trying to take each request on an individual basis and give it its proper due. And they even talked about having the books assigned randomly by somebody else and having 3 people read every book that's being appealed. So I do think that they're trying to do the right thing. You know, I think there's probably a lot of misinterpretation on both sides. You know, we've heard pornography. We don't have pornography in the library. I've heard they want to ban the books, and I know one side saying we're not trying to ban the books, we're just trying to move the books. So, you know, nobody's going to agree on the various interpretations or definitions of those, but as passionate as the people are on either side of this issue in this room tonight, I do want to point out, I was in a meeting the other day discussing this issue for about 45 minutes, and I went outside the coffee shop where I was, ran into a couple of friends. I said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm in here talking about the library issues." And they said, "What library issues?" And I said, "About the books that are, the ongoing issues with the books." And they said, "I don't even know what you're talking about." So there is a huge segment of Fairhope that isn't even plugged into this issue. And I just think that it's easy to get caught up in what we're so passionate about, but there are a lot of people that aren't even paying attention to this. So I know it's just one of those things we're going to have a hard time finding the common ground, but I do think there's a process that will work its way out if given the opportunity. And at the end of the day, I think the APLS has made their decision, whether we agree with the process or the way it was handled. So as someone pointed out earlier, the next step is either the library just says we're going to continue operating and not worry about that 42,000, or try to appeal to have them change the policy or reinterpret the policy to get that funding back. And in that meeting I was having, I said, look, at the end of the day, I believe in our librarians. I believe in the library board. I really think they're good people just trying to do the right thing. I will support them where they go. And if they say we just want this to be the easy way and we want to move the books to the adult section, I said I would support that decision. If they want to keep them shelved the way they've decided, I would support that decision, because I think the process they've gone through has been adequate, in my opinion.
Councilman Robinson.
I spoke once about 3 hours ago, and it didn't go so great. But that's the risk you take when you speak on an issue that's so politically and emotionally charged. I asked what I believed was a rhetorical question that everyone in the audience, whether it's in this room or the other, would agree with, that none of us want our children exposed to sexually explicit material. And I think the majority agrees with that. And I asked that for the very simple purpose of trying to establish what we agree on the front end, because it's far easier to work to a resolution when you start out with what we can agree on. And so the idea of mediation is wonderful. And we heard from so many people tonight on both sides, really, that I thought were reasonable in the positions that they took, even though they disagreed. But there were some that were not, and you can tell the people that seem to be more intent on winning than being right, and it's from the tone of what they say, and it's what they say. And to those, I'm sorry that we've disappointed you in that way. But I will say that everything we do up here is difficult at times. Not every decision is easy, but we have to, in every decision we make, think of the constitutional, the legal, the moral, the ethical ramifications of it. It's not what do I, Jay Robinson, as an individual want to do. I don't get to make decisions up here like that. I wish I did. It'd be a lot easier. I've got to think of the 20 or 30,000 people that live in Fairhope and how it's going to affect the community as a whole when we decide what we do. To the sweet lady that told me at the very beginning I probably should close my ears, I've been called woke and worthless, so it might have been a good idea. But I don't believe that. And I also don't believe that some of the things that are being asked and that are being discussed, i.e. the moving of certain books, should offend a librarian, because as Jimmy just pointed out, there's been 4 or 5 moved recently. And so the idea of moving books in general shouldn't spark such a reaction when we're doing it on what seems like a somewhat regular basis. And it just shows to me that there is a process. and that the process should be followed. And if I didn't say that as succinctly as I wanted to when this thing first started, that's really the point I was trying to make, is that I hoped we could agree on something on the front end to make this meeting a lot more beneficial to everyone. I don't think we got there, unfortunately, but I do think there are processes in place. I think we've already started the process, and if there are additional processes that need to be explored, then I think we need to do that till we ultimately come to what I believe is a legal resolution to this, which is all I'm asking, and I think which is what we should all be looking for in this. It's not a personal decision, it's what's legal and what's right for the community as a whole. That's it.
I'm going to take a little bit different approach, and then I agree with what everybody here on the board said, and council said. What I have, I'm sorry? Guess I'll turn this on, huh? What I do appreciate is all those that are still in this room. After listening to both sides of this discussion, I'm not real big on people coming up, give me their one side and walking out that door. Not wanting to listen to what anybody else has got to say. That's never been big on me. That's like having a discussion one-on-one, like any one of us would have a discussion. And I disagree with this gentleman. And I make my point, get up and leave. Don't want to hear what he's got to say. So I appreciate everybody that's still here, because we need to be here and listen to all this. We need to do that. Y'all are here on your own accord. You're here because you feel it's necessary to be here and listen to both sides. And I appreciate that. I really do. Thank y'all very much.
Mayor, any comments?
No, I think everything's been said. Again, I think, Jack, I'm sorry you're getting beat up for the decision I made to give the library board that award. That is a decision that I make every year, giving a Volunteer of the Year award. And, I had already discussed giving that to the library board, and when all this started coming up, all this controversy, and they had done some great things this year based on capital fundraising to open that teen section, working with us on different things. Obviously, they faced a lot of challenges also, but they've done a lot of good things, and that shouldn't be overshadowed by what's going on right now, because they are volunteers. They give service to this community because they love this community, and that's why they were given that award. The other thing I will say is, I've had conversation with Mr. Wall. Also, we have talked about a possible appeal process. He told me that he was to be working on that committee made up of professionals, that if a book still wanted to be appealed to that possible 3-person board at the state level, that we could still appeal those books there if we wanted basically a second opinion, just like you would go to a doctor for a second opinion. So I will reach back out to him, ask him if he's made any headway in forming that committee. Just if we decide there wanted to be another appeals process, that we would have that. But again, I appreciate everybody coming and voicing on one side or the other. I mean, I think it's easy when you are in a group of like-minded people, and I think we have all talked about that collectively. But we serve a very diverse population, and I think that's where the challenge lies. And again, I appreciate everybody being respectful and everybody being here tonight. What makes Fairhope the community that it is the people who live here, and those people willing to be engaged with our government. And that's why we all live here, because we're all free thinkers. We like living in a democracy. We like living in a community where we can have a diversity of opinions and be respectful of that. So I appreciate everybody working through our process of government, and the library for working through their process of reviewing the books. Thank you.
All right, item number 22 on tonight's agenda, executive session. I'll read this letter. You done, Jimmy?
I'm done.
As City Attorney, I, Marcus E. McDowell, I hereby request the Fairhope City Council go into executive session based on Alabama Code to discuss pending litigation and the legal ramifications of and legal options for potential litigation. As City Attorney, I'm speaking for Marcus again, I hereby request that the City Council of the City of Fairhope rise from regular City Council meeting on Tuesday, April 29th, 2025 to go into executive session. The City Council shall be in executive session for approximately 60 minutes. At the end of the executive session, the city council shall return to the city council chambers to resume the regular city council meeting. Are we planning on voting on anything when we come back? Okay. You're all welcome to stick around and watch us adjourn, but we're going to go in that meeting and we're going to come back and we will adjourn without any action, sir.
You need a motion and
Hold
second.
on. Hold on. Okay.
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll call the meeting back to order, and I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of adjourning, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Thank you, guys. We're adjourned.